Okay, here we go. Hey guys, sorry. We are back with another Pylon episode. I'm very excited because my sometimes co-host, Jeff In Control Robinson, you are here on Fear Dragon's laptop from a hotel room where you are doing WCS Challenger. Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you for having me, Dan. And I just want to say if we could open up the next 2 minutes or so and get all of the jokes out of the way right now, that would be so great.
Ooh, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. Is that enough time? I'm going to have to draw this out over time.
Well, we can have the first 2 minutes, and then if you download the new loot box from EA, you can unlock 2 more minutes to talk about.
That's business talk right there. I like it.
But you got to check it, every hour because it won't auto go to the next crate. So,
I think In Control is a bloody genius, by the way. I already told this joke to these guys, but for the stream, like, how can you deflect these jokes and memes about not being on the show for 3 weeks? I know. Get Rifkin and Winter on the show at the same time. Reddit is going to love this.
A master genius.
He's a brilliant man, this In Control. But I've had a good time doing the show.
You're doing a great job.
You're back though, and that's gonna make it a lot better. Of course, Rifkin, we have you back as well. How are you doing?
I'm doing just dandy. If it weren't for these allergies, I'd be perfect. Thank you for asking, Artosis. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks. No one ever asked.
So, Graham, I have to ask, and I think I know the answer, but the ear swab is out of your head, correct?
Yes, I can hear. And the worst part of that ordeal, sorry, TLDR for those who don't know, I got a Q-tip stuck in my ear and chose to fly with it in there rather than go to an American ER, which the pressure pushed it further, and I was deaf and in pain for like 2 days. The problem is, though,
Dan, you didn't hear this.
When they got it out, it was such a good feeling. I will be chasing that high for the rest of my life.
Oh my God.
Oh God, that's so good. Yeah, like the ultimate relief. I know what you mean. Yeah.
What did the doctor, can you talk about the progression of going in and being like, yeah, there's a Q-tip in my head? Because it's not sticking out, right? It's like so
right. So it broke off, and what happened was I went to the ER, and I spent 3 hours in the ER actually with them trying to pull it out by just like tweezers and other things, but it had been lodged in to the point where it was almost breaking my eardrum because of the pressure on the plane. So it's just like it's not like there's any stick part to grab onto. It's just cotton swab, right? And if anyone's played with cotton swab, you can't pull at it. It doesn't work like that.
Oh my God.
So they had to refer me out to an ENT after 3 hours. It's like 2 a.m. and they're like, sorry, you got to go home. We can't do anything for you. And because it had been the next day already, they couldn't get me to an ENT till the day after. So I just spent a full day with this thing in my ear, just deaf and in pain. And I finally went to the ENT, and it was so stupid. It took 50 minutes. They were 50 minutes late to the appointment we had set, but it took 3 minutes to fix the problem. So I was just whatever, thank you. God, I could hear it. Felt so good. It was amazing.
You had this in your ear because of an ear infection. You got on an airplane instead of...
No. So I was just drunk and stupid and cleaning my ear with a Q-tip, and
exactly what they tell you not to do.
I should have, right? Exactly. I should have gone to the ER right away in the States, but I have heard so many horror stories about all the American costs of things. You go to the hospital, it costs you $12,000.
We've heard the horror stories of Canadians jamming ear.
Well, I was flying in 9 hours, so I'm like, fuck it, I'm not going to risk paying $12,000. I'll just fly home with this in my ear and then get the ER as soon as I land.
Okay, but it was a Q-tip. You were cleaning your ear and it got stuck.
He put it so far into his brain.
No. Hang on. When I did this, it didn't go in so far. It's not like, oh my God, I jammed it in there. It was in there a little bit to the point where you couldn't really grab it without tools or something. I don't have tweezers on me. But being on the plane, the pressure from the plane is what drove it down my ear canal.
And this, we got a pretty creative viewer base. I need somebody, ideally 2 or 3 people, because there's got to be a camera person, there's got to be a director, a producer, and then an actor. But I want someone to reenact
the dramatic,
fucking Rifkin moment where he's just like, oh my God. Yeah, that's actually exactly what I needed. Yes. Yeah. Where'd it go? Where the fuck is it? Oh, that's weird. Oh, there's a Q-tip in my head. What is Graham Rifkin going to do about a Q-tip in his head? And then the journey begins. You know what I mean?
I actually have a couple more questions. So I got to do it.
I love that this is the topic of discussion for today.
This is the only guy to do it.
StarCraft this week, okay? Okay, first off, So just the cotton head got stuck?
Oh my god.
Yeah. So like if you were to take like a ball of Q-tip, right?
Just
Yeah.
the
part
tip.
that's attached to the stick.
He only has the tip in there.
Just the tip. So it's not.
Okay. So there's a few things here. First off, too deep. Have you how do you not know that? Second off, this probably wasn't.
It didn't.
Was it?
So first off, this is like coming home from the Twitch party. I'm pretty fucking drunk and tired. So control is definitely not as accurate as normal. But secondly, it's not like, again, you're not jamming this thing in your ear. It's just in there barely enough that you can't like grab it with your fingers to pull it out. And if you were to push anything else in there to get it, you risk
saying that like that's a reasonable thing. That's happened to nobody else.
It's never happened to anybody. That's why they had to refer you to another hospital. Now, listen, here's the big question. This was not name brand Q-tip, was it?
Oh, shit.
It was from, I don't know.
You did some shit.
You go to the hospital, you ask the front desk, they give you like the 3 in the little plastic thing or whatever that's whatever that was.
So let me
You went to
just
the hospital to get
chill
Q-tips?
for Q-tip. Do you know why we call them Q-tips?
Hotel, sorry.
Do you know why we call them Q-tips? Because
Why do we call them Q-tip, Dan?
is the actual brand that's good, okay? This is like buying Ziploc bags where they just don't fucking zip twice, okay? You don't use
further with this.
Okay, we don't have Q-tips in America. Every time, or in Korea, every time I go to America, I bring home Q-tips because you're never going to have that problem.
And Dan's like, sometimes I cram 4 of them in my ear. Okay,
I put 4
Four
right
times.
But see, that's the thing. I
bring them
use
out
Q-tips
with
at home,
matter
and for
and
years
back
have never
in.
had this problem. So you're right. It's the hotel. I should go sue the Hyatt. Obviously, is the problem here.
I would love it if you'd sue the Hyatt. Please
You
do.
gotta get some name brand Q-tips. Look, I made a diagram for you, Rifkin.
I gotta find a way to fund
I'm gonna
BTS
show you,
season
right?
2.
So on it,
Oh my gosh!
stupid. Here you are over here. That is like, okay. I looked into this mathematically. This is.
You know what? To be fair, to break this down, I think stupid's the wrong word. It's more greedy, right? Because you're feeling good, but you know there's a danger. But Graham didn't know. He's like, no, we can go further. It only keeps feeling better, doesn't it?
It does. That's the problem.
I know the head could break off
I flew too close to the sun. I am Icarus, the Q-tip in this situation. My wings were Q-tips, not feathers.
Fuck it. If it's not coming out, nothing is.
Have you guys ever seen the movie The Core? Where they go down and try to restart the core with nukes. They go underground.
Oh, I remember that. No, nobody watched that.
I feel like
Wasn't
that's
that Armageddon?
He's like, no, that's
Came out around that time.
An asteroid. Come on, get your Earth disaster movies right. But this was
Everyone knows
basically
all
the
of
the core. He's like, I got to restart that brain. Uh-oh.
Anyways, this is a long-winded way of saying also welcome to the show, Winter Gaming.
Winter, our first time that we've had you here. How are you doing?
What's up, Winter?
Thank you for having me. I haven't done anything of such questionable anatomical or just I haven't had a moral dilemma like that.
It's okay. This is a safe place. You can talk about things you've crammed inside your body until a hospital had to get involved or anything like that. If you...
Not recently. It's been a while since I saw it. So
fair enough.
Okay. So there you have it. Okay, guys, we'll see you next week. Check out the Matcherino. No, okay. Of course, Matcherino, our big sponsors, guys. Definitely check that out. Use the code this week. It's Queens of the Zerg. You cap everything there, and it's Queens, not Queens.
Multiple queens.
Just one queen is cheesing you, and screw them. But yeah, we have all sorts of cool T-shirts and stuff, and you can even, we have if you really love Barristan, there's not just one, there's not just two. There's 3 or 4 Barristan T-shirts, so you can really get all of them.
Wow! I like this one with Anna, dude.
I know. It's like Cobra shows over that shirt, and I'm like, okay, listen. This is going to go one of 2 ways. Either nobody's going to buy it or it's going to be a top seller on planet Earth. I can't tell which direction it's going to go. And then I showed it to Anna and she had this really funny look on her face of okay, there's a shirt of me that's holding Paris gazing at the galaxy. I don't know. Yeah. I think that's how you impress your friends, personally. Totally. But yeah, please use that code. I'm sure Dan's been talking a lot about it, but it's free. It actually costs you nothing. It's just a question of, how many of you guys can be motivated to put that in. But the more of you that do that, the better the Pylon Show can be in terms of showing our sponsors that we can be great to sponsor. So please do.
Yeah, please check.
Hang on. I hope this shows up correctly for y'all.
He's fucking doing it. He did it.
Thank you so much.
If you want to put a very awkward look on Anna's face at some point, just show up to any function she's at with that shirt on and see her reaction.
Oh, I know this feel. There's that stupid hoy 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 shirt to me. Every one of my fucking fans wears. Like, Rifkin, I'm so glad to see you. I'm like, don't touch me. Get away from me. Why are you wearing this shirt? God damn it.
I'm not sure what this shirt is, but
You haven't seen this? Rifkin, you got pull the picture, you gotta show him that. To be fair, Rifkin kind of did this to himself, though, right? Like, you took the silly picture, but then somebody...
No, I didn't. I didn't do it at all. Like, the problem was, so the long story short is we had that stupid Catalina intro, right? I'm going to link this in iNcontroL's chat, by the way, so everybody can enjoy this stupid looking picture. And someone else had taken my face and photoshopped onto the Korean girl from the Catalina video. And they put that on a t-shirt and made it look fucking fantastic because it actually looks amazing minus my stupid face in the middle of it.
My favorite part about this is if you look at the background of Rifkin's studio setup right now, I find any defense impossible to believe.
Fuck.
Very much so.
He's like, I didn't do this to myself. I'm like, yeah, tell us how you didn't do it yourself. Anyways, how long you been sober, please? Yeah.
Oh, amazing. But yes, check out the Match Reno page. Wow, this is going great. First show to be back, Jeff. We're really just booking through all these topics.
That's what I do, man. Yeah.
And of course, if you want to support the show, check out the Patreon, patreon.com/ThePylonShow. And, you know, if you support, you can ask priority questions, which we will answer in the Discord. Join the Discord anyways. It's a great way to interact with the show and download it, subscribe, you know, check it out on YouTube, whatever you can do. And we're happy with it. Just tell other people about it. Just watch it. That's what we want. Come on. So yeah, let's do this week in StarCraft.
One more thing, though, before,
yes,
of course.
Okay.
I have to say, if you're watching the show and you have any kind of anger or anything like that, just wait, because when Dan posts it to his YouTube, he does zero moderation. How do I know that he does zero moderation? Because there's been one guy who in every episode has just found the one thing. And the best part about his comment is that it's topical. So he watches the show, finds something, and it'll be like 1 week he was like, yeah, of course Artosis supports so-and-so. I've never seen a guy sell out so fucking hard and have no spine whatsoever. And I'm like, if this guy posted this on my YouTube, motherfucker, he'd be banned so hard his head would spin 370 times. Dan's like, he's probably got a point.
Yeah. I'm like, I
Every
am a
week.
sellout show.
Well, now you just gave him everything he ever dreamed of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, in fairness, Artosis is too busy eating towels to have time to go moderate YouTube
That's true.
comments.
It's true.
Do you eat towels, Dan?
When I think they're mints, sure.
Is that a
The
GSL
video on his
conversation? you guys have?
channel, it was
No,
actually
it's-
uploaded after the episode I was on last, where he takes one of those tablets at a restaurant. And the title of the video, by the way, is titled "Mint or Towel?" or something like that. And it's Artosis putting it in his mouth, slowly trying to figure out what it is, and then kind of barfing out a towel.
No.
It's so good.
There's a video of this? You
Yeah,
actually...
check it out on YouTube, man. It's a great video. I was at the after party of like ASL finals, and No Regret is actually filming it with my phone, and I'm just like, all right, let's test this out. It looks like a mint.
I'm so proud of my StarCraft peers. We were just making fun of Rifkin for cramming a Q-tip so far into his
Where's that graph you got? Do you have that diagram again?
Yeah. But now we got Dan testing towels or pills with his mouth.
See, that little dot is not a mint, by the way.
We can try it. Is it a towel though?
It's just like licking it.
I bet you could get pretty famous if you made a whole YouTube series of you trying out pill or towel, though.
Well, I actually called it Mint or Towel ? Episode 1.
Episode.
There you go.
That's right. That's right.
Mint versus $30 towel. What
So,
comes?
so there's
There you go.
so guys, you can look forward to 2 more episodes.
I like it. All right, sorry, Dan.
If you
Go ahead.
support the Pylon Show today, that's the
No,
important
it's-
questions being asked.
Well, I'm playing into with the episode 1, the thing that Jeff set up for me that I never finish anything. I'm like, well, there would just be one episode of this, won't there?
But you never said
anyways,
of how many episodes. Maybe it's a 1-season show or 1-episode show, you know?
yeah, we call that a movie normally, but okay.
And
Yeah.
it still has better writing than The Flash.
It certainly does. Okay, not as good as Iron Fist though.
Oh my God.
So what happened this week in StarCraft, guys?
This week in StarCraft. Let's do it. First off, I believe we have Olima League, number 124. Is Terran balanced? This is the big question.
This
Because
is actually so cool.
We're all Terrans. And yeah, you cast it, of course, right? So Gumio and Cure in top two, Gumio winning again 2 weeks in a row. And
what you have to do,
yeah,
look at the last 4 results though. And I believe it was 2 ago is when the patch hit to buff Marauders. And that's when Terran are 3 out of 4. And then this week is 4 out of 4. But prior to that was 2 out of 4, 0 out of 4, 0 out of 4. Something seems to line up there. I think the change to Marauders, Vikings, Ravens seemed to work favorably for Terran.
I guess it did. I mean, there was a lot of good players in the tournament too. Like Dark was in there, Trap was in there, Solar was in there, Impact was in there. A lot of other good Koreans and Chinese players. So Gumiho crushing.
Dark got knocked out.
Yeah.
Like was it by Cure
Gumio this last time?
Well, no, Gumiho beat Cure. It was so sick. The finals was a 2-0, such a sick, clean run out of Cure, and then Gumiho reverse swept it because he stopped playing mech after game 2.
Really? That's fun.
No, I thought this was the previous one. I thought, didn't Cure just beat Gumio?
No, in the most recent one, the finals was Gumio versus Cure, and Gumio won 3-2 with the reverse kill. But Cure, like Dark, floundered really badly. Like I was so shocked by this because Cure's a good Terran. We all know that, but like Dark got 2-0'd, and it was like a pretty clean 2-0 as well.
Yeah.
Really surprised me. It's the only time I've ever cast Dark in my entire life. It was 2-0.
That was really the only time you've casted Dark?
Yeah, he doesn't play in a lot of online stuff. He pretty much sticks to like just GSL and like the stuff in Korea.
Well, I guess we see why. He's getting wrecked by the Yeah, check out Olima League, guys. You can subscribe to them for like $2 a week and get the replays, or just watch everything on Base Trade.
Literally week 124. I think that's amazing. Just awesome that she does that and that people are supporting and stuff. It's really cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's actually really cool because this is like the 3rd year running, going on 4, and it's all been crowdfunded. There's never been like sponsorship for it at any point. It's just like the fans driving a good tournament. I think that's really cool.
And I mean, it's legit such good StarCraft. Like even back when it was $15 a week to get the replays, I was subscribing then because I'm like, well, this is just like the greatest replay pack on earth. And it's
I steal that content all the time.
Yeah, it's I think it's like $2 a week now. It's really been toned down.
What are you doing for your replay packs? Is that like a Discord situation or just?
Oh, you have to ask Holy Moly.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's specifically different.
She posts
for that
on Patreon, on actual Patreon.
Good to know.
But, yeah, definitely worthwhile and a good tournament. So go check out those VODs at least on Base Trade TV. Quickly want to talk about the PSISTORMCup. PSISTORMCup VI, and no, we don't have that up. Okay, we're gonna go back to that a little bit later. We'll go ahead and jump down. Okay, Zombie Grub made a bunch of I love having you on camera here, by the way, Cobra. He can actually
no.
He's just like no.
I'm like, oh no. Okay, I'm doing out of order again. This is what I do. This is why normally Jeff's supposed to host. All right, so Zombie Grub made a bunch of content at WCS. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Doing good so far, Dan. Keep going.
Yeah.
She only ended up casting like one series with me because she was really busy doing interviews like the entire weekend. She brought her tripod, big camera, extra mic. Like she went full, lack of better phrase, try hard with it. And I think it showed really well at the end. They were good interviews and quality was nice. The video with Wardy was perhaps my favorite.
I think we're going to take it back. It's got a negative connotation to it, but I think us tryhards are going to really work really hard at it and try to bring it to a positive light.
Yeah.
She did a good job. I didn't watch any of these, but I'm seeing the example here of Fear Dragon and Gemini 19, both guests on the Pylon Show, which I think, if I want to go ahead and put this out there, furthers the fan theory that it's just a bunch of friends that appear on the show.
Ooh, and okay, I want to get your take on this, Rifkin. Has she gauntleted us? Are we Wardy and she's gauntlet because we had these guys on the show?
I see, because she got the guest before you. Yeah, it's a little snaky of Zombie Grub to have done that.
I actually casted like 3 series from that the night before any of it, and nobody told me anything. So I didn't.
You're too big.
Really?
You're above the
furthers my point that it was not a big deal.
Everyone
made it into a big deal.
I think we got 2 news cycles out of that whole thing. We should probably cut it off there, or Wardy is just like
You're gonna run
until he dies.
Nation Wars is going to be put at risk as not being the most talked about topic at this rate.
We've moved past that.
I'm not just shouting out because Zombie Up's like a friend. They're actually really good interviews. And the best part she did is she timestamped them all too. Like she went through and took the time to do it. So you can skip through to specific parts if you're not interested in some of
them.
God damn it, Rifkin. That's the internet. Like the first 6 episodes of the Pylon Show, actually to this day, I think, and I've actually specifically, I've been like, Cobra, do not timestamp this show. That is ridiculous. But that is every time there's someone that's like, hey, where are the fucking timestamps? I can't be expected to watch an entire show.
I just let some aspiring YouTube commenter figure it out, pin them to the top, and there you go. My work here is done.
Aspiring YouTube commenter.
Yeah.
Is this the thing? There's
that program. You have no idea. We already heard
that's
about
actually
that.
a thing.
Someone did it. They do it every week now. And it's really nice that they do that. But it's so funny because there's that is the expectation.
It's like, it's me, you fucking idiots. It's me. He's dying.
Yeah. Cobra does.
I try to ask him not to do it, but yeah, it's because he already does so much work. But it's so funny. There's going to be a next generation of a video internet person, and they're going to have this weird they're going to have a list of expectations, and if you don't hit them, you're the worst. It's amazing. That's a whole nother topic, though. We'll have an episode where we complain about people on the internet, I think, or maybe we'll make that a 6-part series.
Well, maybe we can get Tasus on for that episode.
He'll come on for that one, right?
Yeah, for sure. All right. Jumping to the next thing. Incoming transmission number 8. Nice username, releasing yet another nice video on his YouTube. You can check out nice YT channel. It's Jay Borino Plays.
Yeah, this was actually
this guy's YouTube.
Yeah,
and he has.
I thought this was cool.
Subs. He's a StarCraft 2 guy.
Yeah, he focuses on arcade, custom games, stuff like that. On my videos, whenever I do arcade,
yeah,
he's 20 some odd thousand subscribers. You said,
yeah,
and it's all on the arcade of StarCraft.
I mean, mods, arcade. There's a lot out there. It's
not esports. It's probably the better way to phrase it. It's not esports.
Good for him. That's cool.
Yeah, that's actually nice usernames. I don't even know how I found this guy, but I thought it was cool. I watched it in the background while I was working the other day, and it makes you realize we get so caught up in the WCS system and these tournaments, you kind of forget that there is this whole other world, and it's a big world of people who don't even consume that content. I was reminded of this too because after BTSL, Wardy and I had gone to this Barcraft, and it was a bunch of college kids fighting, and they're all masters level players, and none of them have heard of me. They all knew Maynard, but they don't watch Twitch is the point. They've only watched the big broadcast Blizzard puts on at the end of the year type thing. So they didn't know Winter. They've never heard of anybody who streams on Twitch. They just watch once in a while, but they play the game every day. So people like Jay Barino and these others, it's a nice reminder that there's so much more out there. And
I could see when Rifkin heard they hadn't heard of him, he had his caravan stopped. He had his palanquin dropped down. His menials were
even know this story.
Let me out of the cabinet. They lowered his palanquin down, and he stepped out in his golden sash, and he threw it back, and was like, "You've never heard of base trade?" And they were like,
"No,
oh, bro, who are you?" And he's like, "Base trade TV even."
Maynard is sitting there in his glorious dreadlocks, right? And I'm talking to this guy because I'm trying to get to know the people at this Barcraft. He's like, "Yo, that's Maynard over there. Can you take my picture with him?" I'm like, "Oh, I would love to, dude. Thanks." He's like, "Yeah, he's a famous WCS caster." I'm like,
Oh man. Actually,
I died inside.
Kind of similar.
Did you tell him that you're a famous community WCS commentator?
Nope. I just took the picture.
Whenever anyone asks me to take a picture of them with someone else, I take a selfie.
Oh, wow.
I do that. I will do the quick camera flip and do a bad selfie, and then take the real picture with them.
Yeah.
Dan didn't finish the story though. He then spikes the phone on the ground and walks off.
Yeah. I go in and I send myself their Bitcoins. I'm like, all right, there we go. Actually, once upon a time, someone I had gone to school with found me doing a stream or something and was like, "Oh wow, you're still into StarCraft. I watch Husky." That's how I found this. And I'm like,
"Oh man."
All right. That was a while ago.
Not anymore, they don't.
No. This is all very, very old stuff. All right, where were we? Yeah, incoming transmission. Check that out. Next we have Fear Dragon. Any Ladder Heroes is coming back, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, he inked a deal with Blizzard again. He worked with Blizzard last time, and he kind of finished it. And it's going to keep going.
Yeah, it's been a while, but it looks like he's got a big post on Team Looker that you can go through and look. But kind of another fun ladder thing. I know Fear Dragon was talking to us about this the other week before we started the show, and he was really hoping that this would come back, and the more tournaments.
I think a lot of the more like a lot of players stream and then like that mid grandmaster level, like top 50 or so, whatever. But this was the only real way that they were getting any sort of notoriety, I guess, any sort of exposure. And I was at PSISTORMCup, we'll get to that, but like talking to a lot of these like higher grandmaster, but not like WCS tier players. Ladder Heroes was a pretty big deal every month for them. So
it's awesome.
I think people don't understand how much Fear Dragon would sacrifice for that too, just to give him like a proper shout out here, because it'd be an event, like maybe it's the after party, and he's like, guys, I got to dip out for like 50 minutes. I got to go like make sure I get the finals. So like he would leave like good times and like enjoy himself to make sure that he got accurate times and like would make sure he had this stuff done correctly like, every single week. And I always teased him for it, and I will still continue to tease him for it, but that's dedication, like seriously.
I think it's
I like Rifkin
not put in that dedication and just instead be like, God, pro gamers are the worst, and tweet about it. What do you think, Rifkin?
Yeah, that's about my Twitter in a nutshell.
I just like Rifkin's example is he'd be like, yeah, we're all at like this after party, and he'd be like, I gotta go and do Ladder Heroes. So he'd take his, his caviar and put it back down on a gold tray. We'd find him an air taxi from our sky base, of course. But
that's only the Twitch parties, of course.
Yeah.
Well, we are going. I love this today. This is the best. This is the best show that we've had yet already.
There's a lot of.
What were we even talking about now? Oh yeah, Ladder Heroes is back. Congratulations to Fear Dragon. Go check out his Twitter, Fear Dragon 64, and you can check out all the rule pages and stuff like that. Jumping up to our next thing, the anonymous tournament of no regret, number 1. He just had this the other day, and so basically what it is none of the players are announced during the game. It's like question marks. You don't know who is playing who,
unless no regret spoils it.
Yeah, when people lose, then you get announced who it was, right?
Which was originally inspired by Total Biscuit, by the way. That was the tournament that he wanted to do.
Oh, yeah. I kind of vaguely remember that, actually. But it seems like it went really well, like really high-quality games and stuff. And
I'm sure Twitch chat had a great time with that one as well. A lot of community interaction.
Right?
Yeah, it's just a fun concept. It's fun for the players because they don't know, but it's really fun for the people involved. And I guess I didn't watch it. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I heard people talking about it. And No Regret was like giving out hints as to who the players were. But I have a lot of respect because I think this is really clever but very cool. At the end of the tournament, it's only when you lose that you're revealed. So a player won the tournament and they're like, all right, No Regret, who was that? And he's like, don't know. And he turned off the stream. And it was just left to become.
I guess it got leaked because it says right here who it was. And I actually asked No Regret last night and he told me.
I'm sure they figured it out.
It was Dark that won the tournament. Really cool. 3 over Hero in the finals and stuff. So, I guess he's losing to Cure, but he beat him in this tournament.
And I think it's on Scarlett's channel, so you can watch the VODs there. And I'm sure it's on YouTube, right?
I think that was a smart choice to put it on her channel.
To put it on someone else's channel. It's already popular because your show is brand new, or this tournament, is brand new.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely something people don't understand is that like the popularity of the channel has so much to do with the views that you get. So it does make sense for him to be using that. But we can talk about more of that a little bit later when we get into the business section.
Well, we can get into that at PSISTORMCup, really.
Yeah. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a tournament he's going to be doing again in the future. I'm not sure exactly when, but
very cool.
maybe something pretty normal because it's an exciting.
What did they have? 8 players to start? 16? Something like.
Yeah, it was 8 players, and just best of 3s with the best 5 finals.
Nice, quick, like 1-day tournament, and then.
Yeah,
I like that. That's a good format for like just a one-off event you have every month or two.
Yeah,
something
totally.
like that.
I like a little 8-person bracket tournaments, and it's like really good players with a good racial split. It's like not something you're necessarily going to qualify for. You can just handpick and have good matches. Because if you have like 2 nameless Zergs playing, it's like, well, shit. Like, is this as exciting? Like the Lings and Banes running into each other. I'm like, Zerg 1 and Zerg 2. Wait, which one's which?
Yeah.
But yeah, that is that tournament. Good job, no regret, and to Dark for winning. On to the next topic here. We're going to just talk really briefly that there is ES Champ is doing or did a little interview with the Game Changers Dreams of BlizzCon director. And this is a new documentary that's out. So I don't know if everyone's completely aware of this yet. But definitely check this out. Did you guys get to see this Game Changers documentary?
I can tell somebody that didn't watch WCS Austin right now. Tell you that, Britt.
I got to catch the very tail end of it because they aired it live at Austin, but I spent the entire duration of it trying to figure out where, because the main stage at WCS Austin was actually tucked away in like the back corner and like super not easy to find. So I missed most of it. But the end, I think I caught the end 15, 20 minutes or so. It was pretty cool. It was really what I liked about it, very professionally well done. It didn't feel like someone had slapped something together and like tried to rush a project that was 5 years old.
Yeah, it's on iTunes, I think, for people that want to watch it.
Yeah,
I had said this when because MMA and MC crashed my stream. I don't know if anyone knows that or not. They crashed my stream for Austin, which was really cool. And they talked about it a little bit. And I guess the opinion I had was it's strange because this is a documentary about MMA prior to his military service, right? Stuff like that. So it's so old. But if a documentary is done right, it should stand the test of time. So it shouldn't matter that it's old. So I'm really interested to at some point go back and watch the whole thing, because I know there's at least quality on it.
It's I did watch the whole thing. I got like a preview version of it, and it was really awesome. Like I didn't pause it at all, watched it through. It brought tears to my eyes a couple times. Really professionally done, and it does withstand. I was worried about that too, because I'm like, MMA and MC, that's like some old, those are some old pros right there. But it like really held up. It was super well made, and these are the same guys that made the I Am Pyeongchang videos for Zest and SOS. If you guys, I don't know if you guys remember that, but like particularly the SOS video, I feel like is the best little player bio that I've ever seen. So these guys are like really legit and really good. So I definitely suggest everyone goes out and checks this out and watches this. And it's definitely something I'd like to kind of go over more in the future once more people have seen it. I don't want to give a bunch of spoiler. Well, I mean, I guess you can just go what happened, but like, you know, you want to go watch the movie before we talk about the little intricate parts. I promise you, like I watch a lot of esports documentaries, and anytime anything's out in StarCraft, I watch it. And I can't do a ranking right now off the top of my head, but this is absolutely one of the best that I've seen. It's
very
really
cool.
Yeah. Okay. This week in StarCraft continues into the Brood War section.
Ugh.
Have at you number 16 did in fact occur. And it's starting to get pretty Korean heavy.
Really?
We had by Spire, a Korean won, second place, Unyoung got second. In the top 4, it rounded out with Ajuk 12, who played the previous one, a good Protoss from Korea, and DeWalt, who is the top finishing non-Korean. Of course, there'll be another Have at you probably in like 12 days or something. Shamtu does them like every 2 weeks or so, but a lot of Korean players joining that tournament, and kind of, I don't know if that's exactly the feel he was going for, and I'm not sure, the latency can get a little bit off, especially if it's like one of the top end South American players against a Korean player with Shamtu and casting, from America. I think it can get a little bit wonky with that. So I'm wondering how he'll deal with that in the future. And the next little thing is the Shinhan Tank Pro League. This is just like a team league in Brood War, and that is starting up this next week. All the first round matches are starting, including media. Our very own Jeff In Control Robinson will be playing Terror from Peru. You're going to beat him.
Is he Peruvian too?
Yeah, he's proven. Yeah.
Oh shit! Well, now I gotta win.
He's
Yeah, I
the
know
guy
he's
that
good.
knocked Larva out of Have At You. So I know that you're better than Larva, so I'm not really worried.
Yeah, but not that much better. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah, no, it's like close. Like Larva's taking games off Jeff is what I'm trying to say, but it's CVC.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, it's funny. My game's on Hitchhiker. It's just the Brood War experience is so funny because we did play Hitchhiker.
Yeah.
I don't know when, but it was way back, and it was very much so like a couple of tournaments had it or something, or maybe it was an iCup, but it's one of those weird maps that's really fun, but you kind of forget because in StarCraft 2, like all the maps are about balance. In Brood War, not really. Some of the maps are just like, no, this is a crazy map. Good luck, have fun, you know. And Hitchhiker is a crazy map, so I need to get some games in.
Yeah, I'll play with you some. It'll be fun. But check that out. That's Kix is doing it. What is it? Kix SID or something is his Twitch channel. And definitely check out the Team Liquid thread, and it gives you all the different times of these clan wars. A lot of top non-Koreans as well as some Koreans will be playing in this. So definitely worth watching. And the last thing for Brood War this week, BSL round of 4 occurred. You can check out the VOD on Zero runs the Bombastic Star League, or BSL as it's called. His YouTube is youtube.com/DIDEKZZZ. So, yes.
Got that?
Once again, DIDEKZZZ. DIDEKZZZ. No idea. He's Polish. Whatever, but it's a really good tournament. All the top non-Korean players basically are playing it. This particular one, he cast with Nyokin. Nyokin's casting debut, dropping a lot of great knowledge bombs there, especially for any Terran people. And yeah, it was nice. It's going to give us a Terran versus Terran finals there, and the third, fourth place match is DeWalt Eonzerg. Of course, the finals, Koget going up against Dandy. My vote for the best Korean right now. So yeah, very nice little tournament going on. And one last thing in this week in StarCraft, getting away from the Brood War, Beastie Cutie has made a new map, Rifkin. Can you walk us through this?
So this is really cool. For those who don't know, this is available on the arcade for North America and Europe at the moment. It's called Beast of the Hill. And it takes the really interesting aspects of a free-for-all and kind of combines them with a King of the Hill to create an alternate win condition, opposed to just simply like turtling up and going around the outsides of the map. So to be clear, like you can still win by killing everybody else. This doesn't change. But what it does is it creates a center spot of the map, which people, the King of the Hill style, can try and control. And every 3 minutes, the dot becomes up for contest. And if you win the contest, you get a point. First to 3 points wins. You can customize this too, which is cool. You can make it so it's every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes, not necessarily every 3. But the thing that was so cool about this is, and this is so smart, Beastie's a genius, is the way he prioritized the unit control for that point. So it goes something like ground units, then cloaked ground units, and then something and something. But the point is, air has like the lowest priority of all. So if there's a carrier sitting on the point and there's a Zergling sitting on the point, it's the player with the Zergling that will get the actual point, not the carrier army. So it encourages this sort of not turtle to mass carrier style that is kind of making free-for-alls not fun, because there's always that one guy who just manages to get away with it all. And unless you're in control building 50 million missile turrets, the Watcher with his middle mines, it actually is not very entertaining to watch. But this was like constant action because everyone was regularly battling out for the middle. And there's a cool bonus where if you control the middle, you also get like small mineral bonuses, but nothing to break the game. I think it works out to like 300 minerals a minute if you were to sit there the whole time. But it's really cool. I really enjoyed it. We actually cast the game on my channel.
Is it an arcade game or an extension mod?
Arcade game. And there are several different variations of maps too. It's not just one. But it was really cool. And I really like this refreshing take on an old format that has more or less been kind of forgotten about. Like they even removed, like 3 or 4 years ago, they took free-for-all out of the queue. You can't even queue for it anymore. But it was really interesting. I think with some more refinement, this could actually be a really amazing map. So I know that personally, I'll be pushing a few games on it here and there on my channel because I want to actually make, this is so fun. People have really enjoyed, people have really enjoyed free-for-all since Twitch Rivals did that thing, not just at the StarCraft 20 event, but leading up to it. And we've had people begging us to do more free-for-alls on Base Trade TV. So we've been doing kind of free-for-all viewer brawls and things like this. But this new map, I think, has some really cool pro potential to it because the strategy of like controlling the hill versus killing somebody else normally it's this extra layer. And Artosis, I was telling him about before the show, and he was actually so intrigued. He's like, I'm already thinking of strategies, man. Like,
yeah. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think it's really cool. It's called Beast of the Hill. It's on North America and Europe in the arcade, and it's totally free to play, obviously. So you guys should have no reason not to check it out.
Yeah, it seems like a really cool thing, especially if you take a look at that clip that you had posted there. I know a lot of people are just listening to the audio, but definitely take a look because it seems very action packed. And yeah, I mean, immediately I was starting to think of like the meta around this, right? Because you gotta hold that circle, but like I feel like I would just turtle near the circle and wait for everyone else to kill each other, trying not to have the game end. But
swoop in last second, yeah.
It's definitely more exciting and interesting than those other free for alls we saw, like at the 20-year anniversary and stuff, and the lead up. Like, yeah. You don't think?
Can we just make it clear here? Dan's hating because he wasn't invited to be a part of it. Is that what's happening here, Dan?
No, it is not. And I was part of the 20-year anniversary. If you recall, I was sitting next to you for most of it.
No, the free-for-alls. Silly goose.
I don't really want to play free-for-alls anyways. That's okay.
Neither do I.
But no, that's cool that Piece of Cutie very active and checking things out like that. But I think that does it for this week in StarCraft. So wow, this is like a record, about an hour on this week in StarCraft. We're going to go into, I guess, what is our main topic of the day, business in esports.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, can you open us up here?
Yeah, so I wanted this will be interesting because it's not structured. I did not approach Winter and Rifkin beforehand or even Dan and said, hey, here's what this is going to be about. So this is me kind of introducing the subject. We talked a little bit about it, and all I said was, I want you guys to go as deep or as not deep as you feel comfortable, because this is obviously a subject about money and business, and for a lot of people, they just are like, I don't talk about that, and that's totally fair and fine. But I feel like because this is, it's both an interesting subject. There's a lot of people that ask questions about this, a lot of times inappropriately, like, how much do you get paid? And it's like, well, that's a weird thing to say over the internet, young person I've never met before. But at the same time, I think any kind of advice, stories you can share about this, and just the subject in general, I think is really interesting. And then I'll go ahead and I'll kick this off with my own, and this doesn't have to necessarily dictate the direction or even pace of this conversation, but what I know that we all have experience to this, but I think back to Dan as well, even. The idea of being a StarCraft-backed person, like we're all mostly StarCraft, that's where we come from. That's where we kind of make our big livelihood. But just in this day and age of being a streamer or gaming personality, you'll do things outside of that realm. And it's like with the hope of branching off into something else, not necessarily to leave StarCraft behind, but to earn some money and to kind of expand what you do. So for me, that personal example would be, of course, this past EA Play where I did the Command and Conquer thing, Command and Conquer Rivals.
How dare you?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to talk about. It's just the interesting reaction from people. And to kind of give a perspective on why we do this. And again, I think back to Dan commentating some of the games, and even I've given him crap and stuff like that before too. But I think it's worth mentioning and for people to kind of see what it's like to be a gaming personality or someone that earns their money in this area. But the entire process was someone hit me up through my website. We're like, we'd like you to play this game. And I was like, okay, sure. What exactly are you talking about? And they're like, well, we have this thing called EA Play. It goes on before E3. We want you to come try out this mobile game. And the first thing I said is, hey, I don't play mobile games, just so you know. But if you want me to do it, that's great. And they're like, okay. And then it goes on from there. It's funny in negotiations, they try to kind of take you away from the subject of money. It's kind of like, yeah, you'll come on down, you'll do this, you'll do that. And I was like, yeah. But what are you paying? Yeah, not to be the evil demon guy, but like, if they're like, oh, we're not going to pay you, then that's kind of where the conversation ends. But they offered a very, very good payment, like the kind of thing that I don't get in StarCraft almost ever. So at that point in time, it was like, yeah, I will come play your game. That's totally fine. And that's the whole conversation, which I think a lot of people, because the reason I say this is
you're trying to say you sold out.
I guess I think everyone sells it every minute. Like Rifkin mentioning his channel, and this channel is selling out. You being here and talking about you casting an event recently is selling out or whatever. But the negative connotation to all that is what's kind of funny, because it's like I had no less than 10 or 20 people be like, how come you didn't test the game before accepting money to do it? And I was like, oh, the whole process, it doesn't make sense to you. And that's what kind of spurned this whole conversation. Is like, I think people really don't understand how to do business in esports.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I personally have a very strange take on the phrase selling out, though, because I feel like for me to use that term sincerely on someone else is mostly applied when it's something that's just totally obvious they're not enjoying it, or it's a product they would never use again. Things like that, I think, are where I reach out for that word, but I wouldn't use it for something like, oh, Jeff got a hosting gig, or Jeff got a gig at a thing doing this, right? Even if it's not StarCraft, because that's a job, in my opinion. And I don't think having a job is selling out. Like,
I don't think it's so much about the word. It's about the context, where if like Jeff obviously has a lot of experience in StarCraft, he's not going anywhere. He's passionate about StarCraft. That doesn't mean he can't do other things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not mutually exclusive. And I think a lot of people in StarCraft and in streaming especially, you'll get this a lot, but a lot of people, especially older StarCraft fans, feel like it's a zero-sum game. If you're not doing this, or this viewer is here, they're not here. Or this host or personality is here, they're not here. But that's just not how the world works. So
yeah,
that's the misconception.
And there was both of that, which I think is interesting. I think we could do a whole show on the very interesting, almost tribalism of StarCraft. Like for those of you, we've had Nathanius on here. Dan I'll pass the baton in a second, but he streamed like Tooth and Tail for a while. I'd love to hear his thoughts on that. But one of the harder things to do as a StarCraft guy is to show up with a different game on your stream, because there's this like jarring experience with a certain number of your audience that is like, does this mean you're never playing StarCraft again? Are you not going to do that? And I've treated it as a very joking thing, but that's an actual pretty earnest response from a lot of people. And then the other side of selling out that I think is interesting is this concept that if you do a gig with something else, unless you like are ready to do that for the rest of your life, you've sold out. You're just doing something for money. And I want to kind of dispel that and tell people, you absolutely do things for money. Absolutely, myself included. If that gig didn't pay me, I wouldn't have done it. So if to you hear that and you go, well, Jeff's oh my God, he's a seller outer, then yeah, I mean, I absolutely will tell you right now that's 100% the case. The same is true for StarCraft. The StarCraft's like, Jeff, we'd like you to come out and commentate this event, but we're not going to pay you because we think that StarCraft has benefited your life enough. I will say, I'm not going to do that event. And there's just the obvious sob story of, I've got a wife, I've got a house, I've got bills to pay. And also, this is what I do for a living, which I think a lot of people don't want to hear, because this is my passion. This is one of the best jobs on planet Earth. But at the same time, if I'm not paid to do it, then I'm literally hurting my business, and it's irresponsible as an adult. So there's a lot of people that I think they don't connect those two, even though they're intelligent people and they like know these concepts in a vacuum. The fact that the two connect is like evil to them.
I think that's another case of vocal minority, especially. Like, you'll get a few people, and I bet a percentage of them are just trying to get a rise out of you, and that can be pretty effective, right? Like, but in general, there are those people. I guess over years, I've literally streamed live over a year now on Twitch of my life. So you kind of build up an understanding with your.
You mean like when you say literally, you mean like
like
time,
physically
right?
in time, a year. Yes,
it's amazing.
Yeah. So I've been doing this a bit, but you get those people, and I guess this is an important conversation that I haven't really thought about in a while, because a lot of the people who watch me or subscribe kind of understand, like, yeah, I like doing it, and sometimes I'll play other games and things like that. Like, I've been into Rocket League and stuff lately, but you're going to have a certain level of content every day, and it's not about what you're doing today or tomorrow. It's about in 3 months, what do you expect? In 6 months? And I guess as a content creator, you kind of got to decide, like, how much do you want to acknowledge the people who, if you tomorrow show up at EA or you're playing like Fortnite or something like that, that it'll take 24 hours and then suddenly they're no longer a fan. Like, how much do you want to invest in convincing those people that's not the case? That's kind of the personal decision I think you got to make as a content creator.
And I love that you've taken the conversation there, because I was just talking on my stream about this, and I think this is one of the unspoken, really interesting conversations about being a streamer specifically, and this ties into the business side. So I'm going to take Winter's question and pose it to all of us, and if you would, feel free to come. So for me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Winter, the way I receive that is, as a streamer, you kind of decide, I am going to ignore a certain level of people based off of the questions, or they're trying to get a rise out of me, or they're just like kind of empty, vacant people in my chat that are just asking questions like, what's your favorite food? And what kind of cat do you like to pet in the midnight hours? And that kind of stuff. But then there's also the haters and whatnot, and how you're going to address them. You have to kind of decide as a streamer how you're going to handle that. Is that correct to take what you just said that way?
Like, for example, on my channel, I have follower mode 15 minutes. And since I stream every day, if you can't handle not talking for 15 minutes, then usually you're not the type of person that's going to have any sort of productive conversation in the hours that a lot of people watch the stream. So I've already said, if that turns you off, yeah, you'll get a few people who maybe won't get into it, but the people you do get, it filters out a certain level. And I acknowledge it does, but it makes my job a lot easier because it's really easy. You guys all stream, you see that one comment, right, when things are going good, that kind of just puts you the wrong direction. That can ruin the next 30 minutes or more.
Well, Winter, one could also argue, according to the likes of Reddit, most of your chat doesn't talk anyway, so 15 minutes shouldn't be a problem.
Oh, jeez.
I from the very start, and I think I had a different take on this. Like, one of the before I even had a computer that could stream regular, one of the streamers I liked the most was Axlev. I don't have any idea what he's doing today, but I always was impressed. Like, he's there, he's talking about the game all the time. He's still playing it. Wasn't always like the top pro, but for me, that was kind of what I took a lot from. Like, when I stream, especially nowadays, you get better over time, but I'm not trying to, unless I'm specifically doing it, I'm not trying to have a conversation with chat. I have YouTube. Like, a lot of the time I'm like, this is going to be something you can watch without any interaction. Like, I'm trying to reach that threshold. So if there is interaction, that's a bonus. It's not the base level that's keeping you on the stream, is the idea.
I also want to interject here. This wasn't just like a total shot at Winter, as much as it was fun to do. Because the problem I have rather frequently with the high view count, it's like, oh man, is this a real stream? There's 5,000 people in chat. Chat sure is slow. And it's like, well, half of it is because we've banned over 1,000 idiots who've been just those guys who spam whatever over time. But also, it's just like, it's the StarCraft community. I've actually mentioned this many times. I've met a ton of your fans. I've probably met more Winter fans, honestly, at events than I have like anyone else's. And that's not to say Winter is more popular or better than like iNcontrol or anyone else, but like, I've had people who come up to me like, dude, I watch you and Winter all the time, but not nearly as often as I have people be like, man, I watch you and iNcontrol all the time, or other people, right? And
I think we stream more often as well is part of the reason.
Well, hang on. So the thing about this is, I'll ask them like, what's your name on Twitch? Oh, I don't have an account. Oh, what's your name on Team Liquid? Never been to the website. Like, there's just so many people who they literally just don't chat. That's not what they come to Twitch for. And it seems to be a very StarCraft audience thing to do.
Yes.
Like, you go to force them and it's just spam and
want to let other people jump in first.
That's actually something I want to like really underline what you just said. Like, for anyone that's like, chat is slow, this is just
I sometimes say good. Like,
that's if you want to see a quick chat, then go watch what hyperactive 12-year-olds are watching, like Fortnite or Counter-Strike. Okay. Like, it's the same thing. Like, I remember we used to go to LANs, Jeff, in StarCraft 1, and it would be so funny because like all the Counter-Strike people go, "Wah!" Meanwhile, like, we're all sitting there watching the StarCraft game, we're like nodding, like, oh my god. And then at the end, it might be some little clapping and stuff because it's like just kind of it's just different the way that people watch StarCraft.
It's really demographic. Yeah.
It's really interesting too, actually, with recent context here. So Austin, specifically WCS Austin, actually beat out everything minus one PUBG peak during the entire weekend. So more viewers than CSGO, and Rocket League, everything else that was going on. Well, actually, I think Rocket League might have had more. I could be wrong. But anyways, the point is, WCS actually beat out a lot of these games you expect to be more popular. But if you go back and actually watch the VODs, because you can see chat on Twitch, still like 36,000 people on StarCraft is a pretty tame chat compared to like when you watch the CSGO stream. 20,000, and it's just like a flood of spam and messages.
I think we're getting a little into the weeds.
We're a little off topic. It's an interesting talk though, but I want to bring it back. And Rifkin, I'll send this at you. You've been a part of some drama, and of course, when any of that happens, your chat probably has a few of those people just trying to poke and prod. But for you as a streamer that's putting on a show, how do you handle that stuff? How, from the business side, by the way, because you are the business. How have you decided to handle that?
Well, it used to be a lot worse. Like, I think, everyone, when you're even a couple of years on the internet, you're still not used to or ready for harassment to any degree. Now it's just meme to me, and I don't really care. It doesn't affect me. So I let our mods handle it however they best feel fit. But for example, we've got a guy, he has easily over 600 accounts banned, where he just makes a new account. It's titled like Rifkin No Regret Drama or Rifkin Triple Chan, or just like, and he just comes to chat, spams, gets banned, but it doesn't time out his name. It just times out the message. And he'll do this regularly. And there's not much we can do about that, right? So you just kind of accept like this shit's going to happen. And I think you can either freak out about it. And if you do like the whole the Streisand effect. By trying not to draw attention to it, you draw more attention to it. Or you can just kind of own it and be like, dude, fuck off. You're not as funny as you think you are. And move past it. Because nowadays it's just so much easier to be like, whatever, guy. You know what else you can do? You can say goodbye. And then you ban him from chatting. Like, I think that it doesn't really affect your business unless it becomes something that is, I don't know, like even because I've had Reddit threads reaching out to sponsors to the point where like Jesse from Ting messaged me. He's like, yo, I had a bunch of people messaging me about something you did today. Ha 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 ha. It's not a big deal to us as long as it's not a big deal to you. And I'm like, okay, cool. It's good to know that they're going to that degree. But even then, that doesn't end up affecting me at the end of the day unless I let it affect me, You're
saying something, Winter?
I'm a little bit different take on it, but go ahead.
Well, this is a.
I was actually going to talk
show, good sir.
From the.
Tell me your different take.
I was actually going to go the direction of going from smaller streamer and content creator to larger, because we're talking from the perspective of like we're here, we're full time every day, and I think there are different perspectives. I don't know if you wanted to.
Please,
all right. Because I was
just advice talking as well. So if you have advice for smaller channels, please do.
Yeah. One of my good friends, Game Time, started streaming. I was actually just talking with him today. Like, he lives 15 minutes from me. We're both from Michigan. And so he was talking today. I think he's online right now. So if this gets back to him. But he's grown a lot in just a few months. And he's wondering, like, because his whole deal is he's a good Zerg player, very good, like top 16 WCS. But with streaming, he's less competitive, right? Like, he has to decide, because his initial draw was being a great player and also like putting on a good stream. But he has to decide, like, how much do I want to commit to working on the streamer side? How much do I want to commit to the playing, like, competitive side? And I think a lot of streamers have that. And StarCraft, this is for any game, but in StarCraft especially, the preconception of you have to be like a WCS champion. I mean, I'm sure that doesn't hurt, but I think you have to set goals for yourself. Like, what I do when I go into a stream, my goal is not to get a bunch more subs. I mean, that doesn't hurt, or more followers. But I'm like, today, I want to try to do 2 hours of ladder. I want to do 1 hour of like 1v1 obs. And when I play 1v1 obs with all my viewers, then that's my interaction time. But it's really easy if you're a newer streamer with not too many people. If you don't set these goals before a stream or before a series of streams, then you're going to lose motivation, because there's going to be like few viewers there, no one really excited about it. And if you don't already have this set for yourself, then there's nothing keeping you going. It's very easy to get demotivated. And if you're not into it, it's not a good stream in the first place. So why would anybody watch? It's kind of a self-perpetuating problem. So I think you set those goals for yourself, and then you let people like Twitch chatter on Twitter. You take that feedback, but you figure out what you want for yourself first. So that way, not every Twitch chat comment or every Twitter reply is going to make you rethink what you're doing, because you have an idea of what you want for the most part. That's it. That's all.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dan.
I was just going to ask. I didn't realize that Game Time lives so close to you, and you know him well. But I heard that he's doing like very well as a streamer right now.
He streamed every day for like 95 days or something like that, I think it was.
Well, he took a day off to try for WCS Challenger.
Oh, there you go.
Wow, I'm unsubbing.
That's what he's actually afraid of, as a smaller streamer who started like, can I take a day off? Like, these are the concerns he has, because he's gotten so big so fast. And my advice to him was, figure out what you want. You can take a day off, but if you're going to stream, just put what you want into it. It's better than streaming 7 days a week and 2 of those days being kind of weak, as opposed to 5 or 6 days a week, but every time you come on, it's 90, 100%.
Dan wanted to say something. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, I was actually kind of asking about that, like what type of tips you gave to him and stuff? Because obviously, if he's suddenly becoming a popular streamer, he lives down the street from, you know, the biggest StarCraft 2 streamer. I mean, this has to have something to do with you.
It's the Michigan effect. All right, we're very I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, but we get along well. I don't know if it's the area or something. Well, I actually now this is not really related at all, but if you know the League of Legends streamer Nightblue, well, former League of Legends, Rifkin might know him, but
Yeah, and
I went to high school with him, so we were pretty good friends at the time. Not recently, I haven't talked to him in years, but
No, though, it's not Michigan. If anyone's out there wondering, no.
You should move to Michigan if you want to be a streamer.
I think Winter's starting to go down that route. No, it's not
I
Michigan.
appreciate the California salary on Midwest. Cost of living, I do.
actually, not to like overkill the topic here, but as a quick callback to the Pylon Show episode 7, you guys should check that on YouTube, youtube.com/Artosis TV, I believe. Sick plug. I know we actually talked a little bit about this, and it's a point I'm going to just bring up where I think Winter's right in a lot of things. Your goals are so important because one of the topics that I brought up there was it's not worth just doing the grind for 8 hours if you're getting nowhere with it. But if you stream for 4 hours and then spend 4 hours working on improving yourself, whether it's relationship building or planning for the next stream or whatever, you're going to end up prospering a lot more from it. Because we all hear everyone just say, like, every advice you hear from every streamer is be consistent, do the grind. But it's not just as simple as going online for 8 hours. There's so much more to it. And if you got to be goal oriented or you're getting nowhere.
I'm glad you said that. I'm going to take it a step further, though, because I don't want this to be taken as I think Winter's advice is bad, because I don't. I think Winter, and that kind of advice is the bedrock for what a good stream is. You have to be happy. You have to be fulfilled. So if that's making goals for yourself that aren't like, today I'm gaining 10 subs or I'm going to cry into a pillow. Yes, that is correct. You need to have that kind of mentality of the stream. But I personally, I think we have to acknowledge a little bit of our privilege as people. Like, we come from StarCraft, where our streams were kind of self-built as well. Like, when you fired up your stream 6-7 years ago and you were doing StarCraft, there were just people that were going to watch for the most part. If you had a personality, if you had anything that was happening there, your stream was kind of kickstarted by the game, because it was like one of the only games on Twitch that was getting that kind of viewership. Now, years later, this is a different climate. So when someone's like, I want to start off streaming, we can talk about StarCraft specifically, because that's, of course, where we come from. It is such a different animal. And I'm not saying this because I don't think Winter and Rifkin don't know this. They absolutely do. But I do think I'd love to take this in the direction of the advice beyond that. And I think Rifkin touched on this, but like, you got a network. You have to actually ask uncomfortable questions that would get hated on Twitter, by the way. Stuff like, hey, you're playing PUBG. Do you want to squad up? And that person can be like, fuck off, you're weird. Or they can ignore you. Or that, and of course, the way you do this, I think, is important. That's why some advice has to be had. But Twitch now is not just about the grind. Like, even the Game Time example I could think about, he got hosted by several people, and that's where a huge influx of people even starting to look at him came from. Then it turns out, by the way, he's entertaining. He's very good at the game. He's doing it consistently, which is that bedrock that if he's not doing that, if he's streaming like once every 4 days and it may be at 2 a.m. or maybe it's at 5 p.m., those people don't stick around. But if you have a good show and you network, that's how you get yourself a Twitch stream.
I think in StarCraft, a lot of it is kind of those more grassroots events like the PSISTORMCup I was at. I met a lot of people that I maybe had seen online. Now I know them in person, and I guess I'm the guy to talk to in that scenario, which is a little weird for me, but like, I'm streaming to 10 viewers. I'm 5.9K, and probably if they had a few more viewers, a little bit more interaction, then they can do the same thing. But I think it's a completely, and I'll give you my thoughts on why Battle Royale has taken off on Twitch, but like these games like StarCraft, what has maybe 100, 150 streamers at prime time tops, Fortnite, League of Legends, all these, and now for just talking streaming in general, in order to be in the top 50, you need like 100 viewers. Like it's absolutely, I can't even begin. I don't pretend to have any idea to break into any game that isn't StarCraft. That's where my expertise is, but I would have no idea for Fortnite or PUBG. But I guess more on my thoughts. I know this is going to change
you're fine, man.
the topic a little bit, but why Battle Royale? is popular on Twitch, why you got these people besides the appeal to 12-year-olds. But why is because in a StarCraft game, imagine, I know it's hard to imagine, but I'm playing a 1v1 against a diamond player. All right, so I'm going to win that game like 99% of the time. Now imagine you're a 1% player like me, 99 other players. Every single game, you're going to get essentially this 1% player beating up on what could be bronze to diamond players, and that's just how Battle Royale is. And I know personally, well, that type of content is, it's not as competitive in StarCraft. Like, I'm not competing at the Grandmaster level. I know I can do a lot more interaction. I know it does very well on YouTube. Like, this is the stuff that your more casual viewer watches. And when you combine that with that happening all day, like dozens of times in just an hour span, where you have this 1% player essentially beating up on 99% players who are worse than them. That's why Battle Royale, I think, makes a lot of entertainment on Twitch and even on YouTube as well. And that's why it's so easy for so many people to watch, because there's always something happening.
There's also this extra degree of StarCraft makes you not be a streamer essentially for 20 minutes at a time. You're so focused on the game, you can't really, in the middle of like a 20-minute game, look over a chat and be like, oh, yo, what's up? I see you there. How's it going? But in a lot of other games, like whether it's CSGO or Battle Royals, you're dead quick. And then you get like a couple minutes to do it. And there's more actual stream uptime in that weird way than there is with StarCraft as well. StarCraft has a lot of downtime in comparison to a lot of these other games.
And I know we're getting StarCraft specific, but one thing I want to kind of extrapolate from what I'm hearing from you guys, just to keep it in the theme of advice, business advice for people watching this. I like what Winter said about how he has a set period of time where he's playing more casual or he's observing people play, and that's his interaction time. Because that is one of the buzzwords you hear in streaming in particular, where it's like, you have to have interaction. You have to interact with the chat. You have to be responsive. And if you don't do that, then it's going to be really hard to have a successful stream. And what Rifkin said is StarCraft is like uniquely difficult for that. To build that into what you do on a regular basis that's a very good call out. But I do want to kind of drag this back because and I take the blame for this, by the way. It's obviously not Dan. He's a perfect example of a human, but we did an hour-long intro with the what's happening this week in StarCraft, and that's my fault for making it go on so long. But I want to kind of just bring it back to the open subject, so we got a little bit too specific, but I'm going to go down the line just to kind of coordinate this so we can do the rest of the subjects, and we're going to go with each of you, and we haven't heard from Dan in a second, but I want to just, if you can give me your 5-minute elevator speech on, and you can tell this through stories, your own experience, or advice. If someone came up to you and you peel back the coverings of like they're never going to make it, what would be your advice or story or whatever in 5 minutes about making money in gaming? What would you tell this person? And let's start with Artosis.
Okay. Okay, so if I have to tell someone in like 5 minutes how to make it in gaming, I think that one of the very biggest things that I have to tell people, and I've seen people really misstep in, like a lot of people that tried that I've seen in esports and didn't make it, or in gaming, whatever, you have to be yourself. Like there is, I know that we do like a lot of online interactions nowadays, typing each other and stuff, and it's kind of more easy to hide who you are, but especially when you start getting on camera and things, humans have evolved as social creatures for millions of years. And like, we can tell when you're not being genuine. Like there's just this overall feeling if you're fake or a phony or you're not real. And I mean, you can maybe trick people for a little bit, but that I think is not the way to make it, because you're also going to tire yourself out. Be yourself. There's very few people, I think, that are unlikable in the world if you're just kind of legitimately genuine in yourself and you show what you like and you do what you like. So don't worry about that. You don't have to be someone else. Just because Tasteless is so handsome and funny doesn't mean you need to try to crack jokes like him and grow a beard. You know, it's you just, so that's like the main thing that I see. And I saw that a lot, especially at the beginning of StarCraft. A lot of failed guys were like, oh, Tastosis is commentating like this, and then they just try it, and it's like, that's not who you are. What are you doing? It's not working. Like, just commentate how you commentate, and it'll be better. People will enjoy it because it's real. It's like part of the reason I've always enjoyed base trade TV, like Zombie Grub Rifkin do their complete own thing, right? And it's real. They're being themselves, and it's enjoyable. It just is as an example. So
Thank you.
That's definitely one of the big things. Another I would say is just like, I guess try to have like integrity as best you can. I know that's kind of a little bit vague, but don't try to be tricky. Don't try to go behind backs or necessarily undercut people or anything like that. Just kind of be, if you're being yourself genuinely and you are not being an ass to everyone, this is going to make it a lot easier for everyone to work with you and everyone to like you and everyone to follow you.
That's a good one. And it's funny because I think generally people know, like when Dan says, don't be an ass, don't undercut people, stuff like that. Everyone's like, I would never do that. But where that advice comes into play is there's going to be, it's like the devil walks in esports type of thing. There's going to be situations where someone's like, hey, do you want this thing? And you're going to be like, oh, well, I have this information. If I did this certain thing, I could get that. But if you go about that way, and I think the other end of Dan's advice is it always comes back to you. Everyone in gaming talks, and that's like on the developer level, that's on the content level, that's on the personality level. If you do shit in a slippery way, it gets out 100% every time. And so, of course, it depends on your take of what slippery is, but just be aware of that. Whatever decision you make in secrecy or in privacy is going to get out. It absolutely will. And you need to be at peace with that.
It's also just so much. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say it's also just like, you're worried about your boss finding out the one thing you did wrong. Well, think about Twitch is like your 3,000 bosses are all watching you all the time. You slip up, it's not one person looking for you messing up. It's a lot of people. So it's just not worth the risk. It just really isn't.
That took and takes. I think it took like years online to be like, you know what? You got to bring it every time you're on camera, you're saying anything, because it's not just like a conversation between friends, right? Like it gets out, everything gets out. And you just, I like to think I'm myself on and off camera and all of that. And it's actually, you got to kind of be prepared for it. If you stream enough or you're creating enough content, your kind of personal self kind of morphs into yourself on camera a little bit. And I don't think you should be afraid of that, but it takes some time to kind of be able to read any comments or feedback and kind of understand how to apply to you. I think I talked about that a little bit earlier, but how to apply it to yourself without being fake or being disingenuous.
Yeah, the genuine thing is important. And I mean, all of us have all these different facets of ourselves. And, we definitely show different parts of ourselves to different people and stuff like that. And, Artosis and Dan are probably a little bit different. But I mean, Jeff, you've worked with me so much, and I'm pretty much the same guy online and offline, right?
More so than I think most people even, which is a testament.
I think that's just, it's a good way to conduct yourself. Like the thing is, you shouldn't be doing things you don't actually want to do anyway. Some people probably look at it, they're like, well, this is cool. Like being a streamer, you get to play video games all day for your job. But like, if you can't be yourself and happily do it and put in the hours and be genuine about it, then you probably actually don't want to do it. You just think it's cool. And there's this weird hierarchy in your brain where you're like, well, this is just the best job, so I need to get this job. And it's like, no, you don't. You can actually, the fucking world is big. Go do anything you want. Find what you're actually happy about and do that.
You know what I find? It's a beautiful thing if you look at it this way, and this is where my mind tends to take it. I agree with everything Dan just said, but one of the kind of rules I have to put over this, I think, that we'll probably all agree with, is that all advice is almost at the exact same time 100% correct and 100% wrong. So like when Dan says be yourself, and that's really important, I actually agree with that, and I think that's huge. But on the flip side, and this is actually true as well, maybe, and this is where you have to kind of apply your own filter to it, there's people out there that are fucking boring and actually are being themselves would be one of the worst things they could do as a streamer or whatnot. And sometimes not being yourself, like Dr. Disrespect or whatever, is actually what blows you up. So you need to hear this advice from Dan. And for me personally, by the way, I'm the worst at being somebody else. Like when I'm not in a good mood or if I'm in a bad mood, hiding that is actually the stupidest thing I can do because it comes off as so disingenuous. I'm like, so I can't do it. But for other people, you can hear this and you're like, but I talk in a monotone voice and I don't have anything interesting to say. Then it's like, well, shit. It doesn't necessarily mean you can't be a streamer, but it probably means you got to doll that shit up.
I think part of that too is just self-improvement though. You recognize like if you have 2 viewers for 2 weeks straight, you got to change something up, right? Like you got to recognize where your faults are and be able to critique yourself. But I wanted to touch on this actually before we get too far off of it and not derail it, but the integrity thing. Now this is like, get ready for some of that Rifkin drama that Reddit tells you all about.
Yeah.
I'm very specifically not going to name names here, not because I'm afraid to, but I don't actually just have the proof. I have really good suspicions and stuff, but just to be clear, I'm not naming names because I'm like afraid or anything. It's just I don't actually have proof, so I'm not going to be that guy. But there's dirty money that still tries to come into StarCraft. And I have been approached many times, and it'd be so nice to make a quick buck, throwing some sort of match fix tournament or something. But in the long run, it's not worth it. And I actually have proof of this because it was about 3 summers ago, I want to say, around that time, a lot of small streamers were getting a lot of money from Chinese investors to throw these big tournaments. And you would have a bunch of no names, myself almost included in this list at the time, throwing these $5,000 and $10,000 or $2,000 weeklies, and you're like, where's this money coming from? And I accidentally, like, for the record, I've been public about this before, we did one of these, not realizing it was dirty money at the time, but what quickly became aware, like, wait a minute, a 15-minute delay seems a little fishy, let's look into this. Oh, now I see why. And we never did it again. But a lot of other streamers who are no longer with us or never broke past their like viewership barrier, they did this, and they continued to do this after I stopped doing it and after we started calling them out publicly on it. And a lot of those streamers are no longer around. And I like to think part of it was the integrity of being honest with the audience and what Artosis said. Like, integrity is a hell of a thing. Like, it brings a lot of weight with what you have. So whether it's not taking dirty money and putting on a good show despite everyone else taking dirty money, or whether it's just simply like endorsing a product that you truly believe in and not lying to your audience about it, I think integrity is a core part of why base trade TV is where it is, because we are so honest and transparent and whatever about things.
Yeah.
So I really want to drive home that I think that point I agree with, like, beyond everything else so much.
Yeah, it's definitely important. I want to just jump back real quick. I know.
Yeah, please do.
But to what you said, Jeff, about like if you're boring and there are people that create characters. Well, someone like Dr. Disrespect specifically, this is like a really fantastic character that he's created. He's basically an actor that's really good at games. So it's like, okay, that's super cool. That's definitely something that can be done, and you might be able to do that. But I think that if you are someone that you consider yourself boring, you think you talk too much monotone and stuff like that, there's like, if you go and read like advice for like aspiring writers or something, they're like, oh, if you don't really have anything to write about, it's because you haven't really lived yet. And that could be the case here as well. Like if you're just like a guy who's never done anything and just played like some games on Nintendo and went to high school, and now you're like, well, I'm going to be a big streamer now, that might not work out for you. Maybe you need to go live life a little bit and build a bit of personality. There was definitely, a lot of people in gaming are like this. It's not anything to be ashamed of. We all played games so much as children. Like, I didn't think I'd ever be a commentator because like my voice inflection wasn't there before, all these different things, but I've kind of lived this life where I went out and chased dreams and did things. And you don't have to like move to Korea to do that or be a pro gamer to do that. Just like living life and taking some chances and figuring yourself out will make you interesting if you don't think you're interesting. And truthfully, I think most people are interesting. It's, if you are being genuinely yourself,
Fair enough.
But yeah, anyways.
I guess I can pick up the other side of that.
Okay.
When I was getting into stream, I guess we're kind of doing a more fluid rather than a 5-minute block thing.
We're doing 5-minute blocks, but you go ahead.
When I was getting into streaming, well, not into streaming, but when I was getting into StarCraft, I was that end of high school. I had a tendency to, I see it now, being that fucking annoying guy who talked too much. So while I didn't recognize that at the time, when I started seeing streamers, I didn't have the equipment to do it because 2010 was 2010, 2011. But I was always like, I think I could talk a lot and play video games. And I really like StarCraft and got into StarCraft. I was watching like Destiny and Idra and XLab, like I mentioned. So, I mean, I knew that from the start. It obviously takes a lot of time to kind of find the line between just being an asshole and being an entertaining asshole, which I like to think I am more of now. But if you really think that's the way to go, and not just because it's a popular thing or that's the thing that a lot of cool people do, or if you play video games, you should do this, then that could also be a motivation as well. On the other side of instead of just, well, streaming video games sounds like a good job, which ups and downs. So,
okay. Any last thing from you, Dan, in terms of advice?
I think that's about as good advice as I can give for a 5-minute little rant that takes 15.
Elevator speech, if you will. Rifkin, over to you, same question. So you've got, somebody that's like, how do I get into gaming and make money? What do you tell this person?
Well, I think the money part's kind of interesting because this really is a different question than how do you be a good streamer or how do you get popular on Twitch, right?
Yeah, the question never was how to be popular on Twitch or anything. It was business.
Right, but it is that leads into the business part of it, right? So I'm going to take this from the assumption that you have a decent sized audience. I'm going to take this question not from the point of view of someone who's starting out looking to have like the long-term goals. This is for the people who have an audience of even 100, 150 to 5,000. It doesn't matter, because the point is all you really need is a couple of dedicated people to make money. And I don't mean by like abusing your friends, but for example, a lot of base rate TV, we got a huge floating audience that comes and goes, but we have a nice small core amount of dedicated people. And when I get a new cool product to sell from a sponsor or get a sponsorship deal with, I know that those same like 10 people tend to buy, not because they love Rifkin, have a big crush on Rifkin, but because they know that the previous products I've endorsed have been good. This goes back to the integrity thing a little bit. And I get offers to do a lot of weird products and stream videos, like, because we've had wood watches, alpaca fur slippers, like not your conventional stuff. But these are items I enjoy, or like a toothbrush most recently. These are items I enjoy, and I can honestly tell the audience, like, look, I use this. If you buy it, you'll enjoy it. They buy it, they realize I'm trustworthy, and it's like a lot of the repeat customers are the ones that allow me to continue these sponsorship deals and continue to get new ones in the future. Because yes, we definitely get some floating people who will come in and buy this, but never buy something ever again. But then like the same 10 core people buying these products, man, sponsors are oftentimes, guys, just so you know, they're looking for like a couple of sales if they're like in a first time trial period with you. They're not looking to make bank and have you get rich off of 50,000 sales of their product. So when you can have those same 5 to 10 core people who trust you because you've been trustworthy, you're honest with them, etc., and the product is good, you're going to keep prospering off this. And then when the better rapport you build with this sponsor, you can then use to introduce yourself to another sponsor. Like, hey guys, we worked with Coursera for 2 years. It was a really good relationship. Yes, it's over now, but we were able to work with them. So can we talk to Sennheiser? And that's why this last month I've been working with Sennheiser on a trial deal. Like things like this just kind of build into each other. And I think this is why I really valued what Artosis brought up with the integrity and the honesty, because the more honest you are with your audience, the more trustworthy you are, the easier it'll be to continue this relationship with everybody, your viewers, your sponsors, your money going forward. I don't get hired for events like In Control, and I don't have like that kind of aspect of the business side of things. I really am only on Twitch being the entertainer / I guess advertiser for sponsors and products. So when I talk about money, I'm always talking about stuff that like really does benefit all of us, and not just like, guys, I got like $50 in my pocket. Thanks for buying that stupid thing. Yes.
Hmm. Let me say a little bit of the devil's advocate and just ask you then, like, because I think at a certain point too, you have to kind of acknowledge that you can afford to sell items that you believe in to your audience. But if we're taking the example of like, let's not even go that small. Let's just say, a medium-sized StarCraft streamer, for Pete's sakes, if you will, a 250, 300 viewer, whatever. And they want to turn this into a professional thing. Would you tell them, and I don't have an answer, I'm a dog, I don't have a horse, sorry, so I just want to hear your answer, but if they're like, G2A wants to sponsor them, would you tell them to take that sponsorship and still be, talk about integrity, or would you tell them to probably not take that?
So there's danger with this. And I actually have experience with this. I'm really glad to use G2A as an example because it's one I can relate to. But before I answer that, I was going to actually mention, take someone like Game Time. Low viewers, but like 600 something subscribers. He puts the hard work in there. So you don't even have to like technically worry about the business side of things if you can nail it on the Twitch side of things, right? Now, I don't think he's going to be living in like a penthouse off of 600 subscribers or anything, but this is a guy who's still been partnered for like barely a couple of months. That's a good amount of income for somebody who's around that viewership. That's actually an amazing amount of income for somebody who's around that kind of viewership. Not taking shots at Game Time's viewership, but just respecting what he's been able to do with it. So again, you don't need a lot of viewers. But for stuff like G2A and contracts, this is where it gets such a scary world. And you'll see people like the esports lawyers out there of the world tweeting about these bad contracts all the time. There was this one recently with the Asia Games that was terrible. And like for me, when I got into G2A, I was blinded by the money right away. because straight up, I actually don't know if I'm even safe to say numbers, so I'm not going to, just to be safe here. But it was a lot of money, more than I would have made through Twitch in like a year type thing per month. So I'm like not even thinking about anything, and I signed that fucking contract. I'm like, hell yes, right? Because for me, it's like, I can use this to make more tournaments. I can do all these altruistic things with it. It wasn't even about pocketing money. Only to later learn that this is not only like a company that is beyond questionable, beyond shady, but they also get you stuck in these contracts. So even though you recognize this and you don't want to be part of this, you can't afford to get out of it. And I think that that's where the business side of anything gets really scary, because I now, after having been burned and through some terrible contracts, know the dangers of a bad contract, but a lot of people don't. And that's where like consulting a friend, even like have them just proofread the contract or something, doesn't hurt, because they might pick up on something you left, like an exit fee or something like that. And it sucks because like, oh, go on.
Well, I was just going to say, I think I just to, again, pull that out and put it in front of people. I think what Rifkin's talking about, and I think it's really good advice, is don't be afraid to ask for advice from other people. Don't be afraid to socialize. You were talking about like that 10 to 15 core really loyal people in kind of your fan base. But I think another thing to look at this too is like, if someone's like, hey, we want to sponsor you, we got this thing, and you're like, maybe ask some people about it, right? Like use the social network of streaming.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, like,
why not just tweet it or something?
For sure. Out there, I know you obviously you're running a tournament organization, Rifkin. I had I'll get an email from G2A like every 3 months, but I had enough experience. Yeah, I had enough experience, and it's good money. I can turn that down in a second now, but 3-4 years ago, it was a lot harder to be like, this is probably I won't say any numbers, but more than I was making off of all of Twitch at the time. Even, I mean, when you're a smaller streamer, I think if you stay to that, and some people just won't get lucky, they won't hit their stride, they won't have the right timing or the right people behind them. But even when I had like 50 viewers, and it seems to be inversely proportional. Like I had 50 viewers, and then on a month I get 50 $100 donations sometimes or more. It was actually ridiculous. And that doesn't happen nowadays because we got thousands of subscribers. Like if you stay to that, but so I don't know if we're landing anywhere on this. We're just talking about our experiences, but like some people just won't get to that point at all, maybe make these deals, and that'll essentially lead to the end of them being a viable streamer or content creator, anything in the long run.
That's why I think it's interesting. It's kind of a murky area, right? Like there are people that straight up say, no, me taking that shitty deal is actually what made me into a full-time streamer. And it's hard to look at them and be like, well, you can't do that. That's wrong. It's hard.
My advice for this kind of business stuff, by the way, just off the back end of this whole topic in general, is if don't be afraid to ask questions and don't be afraid to negotiate. I can actually relate this to like a Twitch related thing that people I think are going to understand more. But for example, if you're asking the contract or the guy who's writing the contract to change something and they're just like, nope, sorry, we're walking, that's probably not someone you wanted to deal with in the first place. But the fear of losing all that money, of him just walking away because you asked a question, is so scary that you don't even want to ask the question in the first place or negotiate or revise. And I see this problem actually a lot with streamers in general. It could be a 2-person stream, a 1,000-person stream. You got that one guy, we've all seen this before on someone's stream, the one guy who's donating a ton of money, but he's being super fucking toxic. And that streamer is like too scared to ban him because they need that money, right? Even though it's the right thing to do. But I think it's very similar to this contract world where like, it's so scary to lose the money when you don't have the money. We're definitely in privileged positions now. And even relating back to the tournament stuff I was gossiping about earlier, I was able to decline all that dirty money because we were lucky enough to have money at the time. I don't think a lot of these other guys did. And while I will totally always look down on them for taking the money, the reality is I also recognize they probably needed that money very badly. It's just so scary to have that in your face and be like, no, because you just can't do it.
Yeah. You know what I would spin on this, not to steal your time. We're going to go back to you, Rifkin, but my personal opinion, feel free to disagree. I think it's almost more how you do it. I feel like when people take, and this is the example we're just beating up, but like let's say they get sponsored by G2A. Do I think that person is bad or is doing something completely immoral and wrong? For me personally, and this is not going to be a wild opinion, not necessarily. Again, if that's what allows that person to pursue their dream job, and it's not like, by the way, what G2A was doing was shady as shit. And I'm not about to sit here and say it's not that bad, But let's also put it in the category that it was. It was like taking advantage of global pricing on games. And it was kind of encouraging black market stuff. And like, it was kind of encouraging theft if you want to get really deep into it. But for the most part, other than harming game devs, which again is bad, I don't agree with, we're not talking about it in the same category of like they were lining up people in Somalia and shooting them in the head or something like that. It's bad, but not world travesty bad. But if that allows us to have some of the top streamers we have today, like that gave them that background, and they were able to entertain people and provide really good quality content. I don't really like the way that it happened, but if they are honest about it, open about it, and then eventually shucked those shackles, I suppose, and went on to greener pastures and then really benefited people and kind of gave back and have the mindset of now I serve the people type of thing. It's interesting, right? It's kind of a gray area, but there are people that do it the wrong ways. I guess what I was trying to get at, but go ahead.
Well, it's interesting because obviously I've walked that path where it's like I now realize that was the wrong thing to do. And I think that it sucks because in retrospect, if I could have avoided it, I still don't know if I would have. That money was huge at the time and helped build base trade. But like obviously in retrospect, I'd be like, no, if I could, but I honestly can't say that I would in that same pressure, that same position. But at the same time, now I'm someone who can advocate and be like, look, guys, there's a right way to do things. I've learned from making the mistakes. And I think if that helps people learn later, yes, it helps avoid more of those situations happening. It's never going to fully stop them. There's still people who are just going to get that money, like no matter what you do, for better or for worse. I don't know, it comes down to your own experiences at the end of the day. You're going to make mistakes no matter who you are. You're going to do a business deal you wish you hadn't done. You're going to accept a sponsorship that didn't go so well. It's just, you're going to make a mistake. It's how you deal with those mistakes, I think, after that really defines the person or the business.
Yeah, I like that. That's good advice. Anything else, Rifkin, for your chunk of time?
No, because I just really wanted to focus on that. That's something I feel not a lot of people talk about, because Artosis and the integrity thing was like a good segue into my, like, I really feel strongly about that topic.
Yeah, I like that. Winner, I'm going to take the last spot because that's the power that I have. So I'm going to chuck it over to you, man. What's your 5 minutes?
All right. I was going to chime in, but I decided if I said everything before those 5 minutes, I wouldn't have anything left to say. So I've got kind of my own perspective.
Sure.
And I just want to jump in off. Obviously, there's plenty of drama around me about the whole ViewBot drama. I knew from the very start that I knew what I was doing. I knew only what I was doing. But I'm going to be honest, like, if people are supporting me or anything like that, I'm looking back, I'm like, maybe I could have done more to be like, don't do anything you wouldn't like to see in the long run. But when you're a smaller streamer, like I'm going full time, and there was a couple nights in there, like $5,000+ donation wars, like just riding off that. And then I'm actually kind of, now I look back like 3+ years later, and I look at the experience, I'm like, I'm actually kind of glad I went through a gauntlet like that, because then I had to decide, well, what am I doing? And then a few months later, I came back, streamed 100 days in a row, 8 to 10 hours a day. And I mean, I still have subscribers from, we're going on 5 years now.
Very cool.
But a lot of my regular subscribers and people that have been around for 3+ years started out during, that was when, just one of the things, now this is going back to the, if you want to get big in esports, or well, not big, but if you want to get somewhere, what I learned was consistency, but you have to manage it. Like when I started going full time, I was doing 12, 14, 15-hour streams sometimes. And I don't honestly remember how I was doing that. There's a lot of caffeine involved. I used to drink energy drinks. I actually cut that out a couple years ago because I just did not feel very good and all that. But you have to manage quantity and quality. But the quantity part is very important when it comes to how oversaturated Twitch is, how insanely oversaturated YouTube is. And there are plenty of other sites, but you have to have enough, like one of the big things for me is I'm just going to talk from me specifically. I'll try to tie that into people just starting up. But about 1.5 years ago, I started doing a YouTube video every day at the same time. Instead of just like, I'll dump 4 games on here now or 8-hour VOD, but every day, and started really focusing. And just to talk about StarCraft specifically, what kind of validated what I've been working on, like appealing to new players, appealing to players just getting into the game with Legacy of the Void, and especially free to play and all of that. There's actually a poll on Team Liquid right now, and I've been looking at Team Liquid since 2010. I got into StarCraft 2 like the week it came out. But when did you first get into StarCraft? And Team Liquid is this site. Like, I'm like, this is the site. Everybody knows about this site. Like 25% total of people got into StarCraft 2 on Team Liquid from this poll after Wings of Liberty. I would argue probably 75% of my audience today got into StarCraft 2 after Wings of Liberty. So if I'm trying to appeal to the type of people and type of content I see on TL, then I'm probably not hitting my audience, because you want new people coming in. You don't want to try to just, if people want to leave, dragging them back is a lot harder than getting new people into the game. So I think the same can be applied to streaming. Like, if you've got a guy coming in, and he was, I think it was Rifkin, talking about like people donating a lot of money, and it's really hard when you're starting out. Like, this person, you're getting a lot of money. This is what's really making it. But at the same time, I'm in the privileged position that's happened a few times. Like, I have a policy. It's not as strict a policy, but if you ask for mod on my channel, you don't get mod, like, by default. For a while, that was actually like a hard and fast rule of like, how do I get it? And obviously over time you realize, okay, maybe I need to have some gray area here because some people are just joking and all that. But I think this has become kind of a rant. But overall,
the Jeff call-out meter is like,
well, we'll get there. Overall, I think it took a while, and the faster, and I think asking for advice, I actually, I went to, Blizzard invited me out to Gamescom a couple of years ago, like 2016. You guys all know Loco, of course, but he's big on YouTube, and he does a lot of content on YouTube, and actually being able to sit down and have a conversation with him back and forth, we talked a lot over that week or so. Really got me kind of figuring out my direction and like what I wanted to do. And now I do a lot more casting, and I call myself a StarCraft variety streamer because I finally decided like I want to appeal to newer players, a newer demographic. And I think if you try to do what someone else is doing and just try to copy them, I think Artosis was talking about this, you're just going to be a worse copy. So you got to take the good things, but also add your own things. Otherwise, no one's going to care. I don't know how long.
Nice. And we'll kind of wrap with this, but feel free to jump in like we have been. I'm going to give a little bit more of like a hit or miss, just general advice. But one of the things I would tell anyone in gaming, which is it's kind of funny because we have a funny audience. I know for a fact a lot of people that watch our show are Blizzard employees, and they let me know every time. They're like, "Good show, by the way, Jeff. Keep it." Yeah, they're very they're nice. And then there's a lot of pro gamers. There's a lot of casual, a lot of hardcore. So we have a really nice mixed audience. And then we have people that, we were just talking about at the beginning of the show that like watch StarCraft but do not talk about it. And then you'll meet them in person, like, yeah, I watch your show every week. It's great. And you're like, oh shit, okay, I had no idea. But so this is going to hit on just a few of those people, but I think it's interesting for talking points. One of the first things, and I've talked about this with a lot of the StarCraft talent in general, but this goes for all of esports. Whatever offer is put in front of you, almost never accept the first offer. And that is one of the lessons that I wish somebody would have told me years ago. When someone's like, we'd like you to do this thing. Here's how much we'd like to pay you. That first offer is not as high as they will go. But the funny thing about this in the like murky waters of gaming and really just contract work in general is that there's this invisible line of like how you take that and what you negotiate and what can spill over into you're not getting that job anymore. So if someone's like, I'd like to pay you $2,000 for the next 3 days. And you're like, no, actually I'd like $12,000. They're going to be like, okay, we'll get back to you, which means you're gone. Fuck off. We're not ever talking to you ever again. But if you're something more like, okay, do you mind if I look at that? This is a busy time for me. Personally, I've done a couple other gigs along those lines. They offered something in that ballpark, but I feel like with my social media presence, with my experience in this field, I think it's a little bit more fair if we go towards like $750 a day, which actually comes out to $22.50. It's just a little bit more, but I feel like that's something I'm more comfortable with. 99% of the time, if you interact on a mature calm level and you're respectful in that way and you give your reasoning, almost every employer in gaming, in my experience, I can't speak to like programming or something like that. They'll be like, you know what, that's fair. That's totally fine. We're actually happy to accommodate that. And then both parties feel happy. There's this give and go. You've also established that when they put something in front of you, you have the cognizance and the confidence to be like, actually, I think I'd like a little bit more than that. Because, and this is a wizened old Jeff thing to say, that actually it's better if I don't say it, and I won't name names. But in my experience, if you don't do that, it actually goes the other direction quietly. Okay. So they put a contract in front of you, it's undercutting you, it's not what you're worth. And you go, yeah, that's fine. That's great. But you do it under the guise of, surely these people have my back. It's people I've worked with for years. They're going to pay me what I'm worth. Right. Just conflictually, those people that are offering you contracts are actually in a position where it's better for them to get more out of you for less if they can. They can love the shit out of you. They can like you, respect you, and think you're great. But if they can get you for less than you're worth, then that's better for them and their position as a job. So it's this kind of interesting hostile but not hostile back and forth. And it's how you negotiate and how you conduct yourself in there that's going to determine how you come out. And that secret that I talked about that goes down, if they get you for that price, next event, they'll be like, well, this is a 7-day event. I'm going to offer $2,500. And if you're like, hey, it's $2,500, sorry, the budget's really tight. We'd like to have paid you more. We'll do that next time. Or we promise to get you some exposure and make sure and really, work up the value of this. And if you scratch our back on this, we'll help you out in the future. You're going to hear stuff like that. And if you start to be like, yeah, okay, that sounds reasonable. Which, by the way, and this is the murky waters of contract work, that's not also the wrong answer, because sometimes that exposure is actually worth to you. I know the buzz line and the funny thing is to talk about how it's evil if anyone offers you exposure, but actually everyone in this call, we don't need to go through the stories, but I know that you guys have all done events, myself included, where that event fucking blew you up on some level and actually did give you exposure and did help you progress yourself in other ways. But if you keep getting paid in exposure, you eventually hit a point where you're like, this has diminishing returns. It's no longer worth it at all. But now the kind of scary part is you're locked into this thing where if you've been accepting a $2,000 contract for 3 years, and then you kind of get wise to the fact that they haven't really moved the meter, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm worth $7,000. They go, whoa, $7,000? No, we're going to do you a real solid and pay you $3,500. When that's what you could have been getting 2 years ago. So little hit or miss there, not specifics, not going to name names, like I said, but it's really important for people to hear that in my experience, the best thing you can do is look at the first offer, wager in your mind how much it's worth in terms of exposure and how much of a relationship with that person. And even sometimes if you accept the first initial offer, you say things, and this is really good advice, by the way. Let me go ahead. See what I did there? Scratching my own back. Or patting. God damn. Anyways, patting my own back. Scratches are good too. If you say things like, you know what, that's actually, that's usually not how much I accept, but this is my first time working with you, and I'm really interested to see what it's like working with you. So for this gig, I'm willing to accept that. Let's just have a great event. You say something like that, and then you mentally massage the employer into being like, okay, great, I got him for less than I was expecting, but now he's being reasonable. Go ahead.
I've actually had a lot of experience with that, where with new sponsors for a tournament I'm hosting, I'm like, look, dude, tell you what, don't worry about, I'll find a way to pay myself for this first one. We'll just try it out. If it works out, great, then let's talk for more. And like, look at the relationship with Ting. We're going on season 5 now, right? But then some they just fuck off after, and it wasn't worth it for their time. Fine, you just gotta accept that.
Most probably, right?
Yeah, but I would say the point about yours that I really like is the negotiation part of this, because the reality is a good company to work with will negotiate with you. If you throw that offer and it's reasonable and they say, sorry, we can't do it, oftentimes, at least in my experience, they'll still let you go back to the original deal. And then you can kind of say, well, is it worth it? Is it not worth it? But any company that's like, nope, bridges burned, they were probably not worth working with in the first place. And it's a full circle, like everything else we've been discussing, where that's just not a company to work with, or a person, individual, or whatever.
And thank you. And this is actually something that doesn't get talked about a lot, but it's an interesting angle to take on in the contract negotiation. it's not like the high-powered, awesome movies where if you win this really domineering contract over a company, that's going to be good for you. If both parties are happy, you're in an ideal situation because they're more likely to rehire you. They're going to treat you well. They're going to talk about you in endearing ways with other people in the industry. But if you fucking bend somebody over, which does happen, although more rarely from our perspective as contract, gaming personalities, but it does happen. You may think that's awesome. And like, let's say you get somebody for $9,000 where they were supposed to, and there's various different ways this happens, by the way, so let's not waste too much time getting there, but it can happen. If they, at the end of the gig, are like, shit, that guy was lazy and did, like that was really hard to work with. We did not get our money's worth at all. You will never get hired again by them, or very rarely. Very likely you just won't. And yes, that payoff was nice, but then they go with this other person that's more reasonable and easier to work with, and they pay them half that, but they pay him 5 times. And then that person gets more exposure and is on a channel, and then their channel grows, and then it kind of blossoms from there. So just make sure and keep that in mind too for gaming personalities, where if you just fucking bend somebody over and then you're not able to deliver on that value, it's going to really hurt you.
I feel like this isn't specific to gaming personalities, but instead just life in general here.
Yeah. Even just making friends, same deal. Yeah.
So those are that's like the contract negotiation advice I would give. And we also had like a really big streamer thing, and I almost have nothing to offer there because I think the advice these 3 guys gave was really fantastic. I love the idea of being yourself. Integrity is a big deal on my channel. That's actually both a blessing and a curse, I would say. I'm very forward about how what you get is what you get. So some days Jeff's a little bit grumpy and ranty, and there's people like, what a fucking dick. I've seen it for 2 minutes. He's been yelling about how he hates when people ask him about Idra. And that person's going to hate me forever. And I've come to peace with that because the alternative for me is I'm streaming and people expect me to always be smiling and always really happy and just like, gosh darn it, guys, let's get into the game. And gee willikers, wouldn't you notice? And you know what? For some people that works, but for me it doesn't. I can't do that. So that appeals to a certain percentage of people, but it doesn't appeal to, I would say, the most people. And that's a business choice that I made because if I'm a happy person, then my stream is tolerable or good. There's been times in the past where I've been unhappy, and that's been a shitty ass stream. And my stream numbers actually reflected that, by the way, which I think is, to tie it back into business, very interesting, right? If you're having a bad time and putting on a bad show, you make less money.
Yeah, I think that goes to the quantity and quality aspect. Like there's a threshold there, and if it's better to have no stream than a bad one most of the time, and that goes for a lot of things. So.
Interesting. Okay. So this has been a gigantic open-ended subject, and I appreciate Rifkin, Winter, and Artosis. Are you saying something, Dan? So you put your hand up?
If I could just real quick, I came up with something because this has mostly been stream-based. Then you did a great little part on negotiating and stuff. But just something I've noticed a lot on the commentary side, because that's kind of actually where that's where I've always been. But just real quick, there's like 2 parts, I think, to starting to, or 2 big parts if you want to become like a commentator. And normally people do one part, but not both parts. And this is where I think most everyone messes up. You have to work hard. These are very obvious. Work hard is one part, right? Know your stuff, be a good commentator, have content out there, and then make your own luck. Things like networking, right? Figuring out, talking, doing the mileage. There's a lot of people that will do the mileage, right? And be like, can I get to this event or can I cast this for you or something? But they didn't do the work. Or there's a lot of people that do the work, but just sit there and have their YouTube channel, but they aren't doing the networking. And it's like, you have to bring this all together. You have to be all encompassing. And Chio 2K17 in the chat said something, and I kind of feel like this attaches to Dan, maybe not as extreme, but one of the kind of elephants in the room to address too is sometimes it's just flat out not going to work out, which I think is really interesting. If there's enough advice out there and there's enough, like if you're willing to put in the work, I'm a believer that it can work out because I actually look around at some amazing examples. This is going to sound patronizing, but it's really not. Dan earlier kind of jumped on my example of if you're boring, you got to kind of act like somebody else. Dan's actually an example, in my opinion, of a guy who just loves something so much, but wasn't necessarily the funniest, the most talented speaker, the most charismatic. But because he loved it so much, in gaming in particular,
that's actually in and of itself a very high quality. Like people are attracted to, Jesus, I just like listening to him talk about that because he just likes it so much. And then from there, Dan's been put in front of a camera so many times that now he is a goddamn good commentator in terms of speaking and humor and back and forth. So it's kind of funny because my initial example was like, if you're boring, change yourself. And Dan's like, fuck that. I'm going to be myself. And with enough elbow grease, I'm actually going to make myself into a goddamn good personality. And that is true. And the scary thing about this, but this is actually just kind of a life lesson, and Chio says this in the chat, sometimes despite all of that, it doesn't fucking work, which is just crazy. And it breaks my heart because it's getting to a place where more and more people are like, I'm going to be a streamer. And then it actually works out. But you go back 8 years or whatever to the beginning of StarCraft 2, and people are like, I want to be a StarCraft 2 professional. Sometimes you could put in all the work, you could know all the people, you could do everything possible, and it still just doesn't work out. And the same is true for streaming. And that's why it gets murky, because I don't want to put out this message where it's like, yeah, you could fail. And you just need to accept that. Because for some people, they're like, I didn't accept it. And now look where I am. And then there's other people who are like, I didn't accept it. And now I'm a junkie in a hospital with an addiction and a psychosis problem. And you're like, well, shit. I wish somebody would have grabbed you by the shoulders and said something else. So just know that it's nothing's guaranteed. You can put in all the work and it won't happen. But other times you got to fight through that invisible wall. You don't know where it is. So I kind of want to end this with one of the cool parts that I think was collectively said in different ways from all of us. Talk to people. If that's networking, that's fine. But ask your loved ones, keep them in the loop. If you find those people that are like, I'm in your channel all the time, talk to them. Not to get too emotional here, but the producer of our goddamn show, Mr. Matt here, that's how I met him. It was just literally, he was in a part of the content. What? Or do you fucking don't?
He waved to us when you mentioned him.
I know.
No one else can see
it's so cute.
It's kind of funny.
Streamers meet these great people, and they can't do this stuff without them. So if you aren't talking to people, if you're not open to hearing things from people, then you're missing out on a lot of what streaming has to offer. But I think this advice, can be cross-applied to contract work and real life stuff as well. Like if you're like, I want to be a professional baseball player, and you just, you're 470 pounds, and you've never gotten off the couch, then I think it's your best friend's job to look at you and be like, what about something else? And then maybe you can look into that. Or maybe you lose. Anyways, it's a terrible example. But that was a cool segment. I do want to say one thing before we advance. If you have questions about this, post in our Discord. We can talk about it, even if it's after the show or whatever. And then just as a general outcry, I can't speak for the other guys, but just putting my own name out there. If you're a pro gamer, a person who's looking at a contract for something else, and you need somebody to talk to about this, I will be that guy. So don't tweet me. Don't, when I'm streaming, be like, hey, Jeff, here's a picture of my wiener, but also I want to talk to you about business. Like, don't do that. I'll post in the Discord, ask some questions, and I'd love to be the beginning of that network for you to offer what advice I have and just bounce ideas off you. So in Discord, hit me up.
I'll extend that to my Discord for anyone interested in streaming, starting out, especially not the pro level, but maybe a little below that, trying to look for some ideas.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Fuck off. Don't bother me with this shit, guys.
There you go.
Like,
go
ahead and
talk to
bother
them.
me, but I don't even respond to my friends or people I work with, so you're probably not going to get anything. I'm sorry.
And that's fair enough. All right, let's move it along, though. Sorry, that was a long segment, but I hope you guys out there enjoyed it, because I think it's really interesting to talk about that stuff. Yeah,
it turned out good. I was nervous at the beginning, Jeff, but that turned out really well.
That's every one of my segments. I too am nervous. I'm like,
is this going to work? Okay. Our next little segment. I mean, it can't be that long because you just started, Jeff. But WCS Challenger season 2 for this year. Obviously, just finished commentating NA plus EU. Can you run us through it at all? Yeah,
and I'll tell you what. This is Jeff shooting himself in the foot, I guess, or just being brutally honest. Whatever you want to take. The games have been shitty. They were not very good at WCS Austin. We had a great final. We had some pretty good semifinals, so that kind of made up for it. But a lot of 3-0s, a lot of guys folding. Neeb with a terrible performance. Like, he beat all the people he's supposed to, gets to the first kind of tough moment in the tournament and just looks lost. You go into season 2. Go ahead.
Well, I was actually going to say, just to touch on that, that's a really serious thing. I was talking a lot with the production guys, and most of these events, when it's long games and it goes over the limit, that's what everyone's used to freaking out about. Shows going too long. This is the first time I had ever seen a production team freaking out because the show was going too short. That there were so many 3-0s and 2-0s that it was over well before it should have been type thing. That was really actually astonishing for me.
And we just had one day of WCS Season 2 Challenger, but in this day of one group of Europe, one group of America, the games were pretty bad again. It was mostly 2-0s. It's best of threes this time. The one interesting result was Namshar did beat out Hero Marine to advance from the group. So you're going to see Hero Marine, who's on everyone's short list of best foreign Terrans. He's at least top 5, but potentially top 3, like way up there. He's going to have to go through the open bracket, which is exciting in that way, but unfortunate here. And then the quality of games, and I don't know how much of a topic this is because there isn't an answer. It could just be bad luck, but like the NA games were really, really rough. There was just, I feel bad too because I make my jokes and stuff like that, but as a commentator, you do not want to, you control part of the story. You want to facilitate something. So if you're spending too much time being like, that's NA, these guys are pretty bad, this is terrible, you're going to sway a certain percentage of the audience to start getting negative and talking about how bad it is. But it's been kind of rough because it was bad.
There's something really interesting about that dynamic, by the way. So I cast all the EU qualifiers for the WCS Challenger stuff. And honestly, I genuinely enjoyed a lot of the games because even in the qualifiers, man, it was like right out of the gates, day one, Goblin knocks the laser down to the loser's bracket in the second match of the day. And you're just like, whoa, we're already in upset territory. That's fucking cool. Because here's a laser, like the guy you would expect to easy breezy make it through the brackets, right? And European players in general have just been so fun to watch. And you've got these up-and-comers, Clem, Rainer. And I think someone's going to misinterpret this as me shitting on NA. I really don't mean to with this, though. But I look at this, and the thing I constantly hear on North American players is we don't have time to play. School, work, whatever. But then I'm seeing kids like Clem and Rainer who are turning 16 who are literally winning a $2,000 flight to Canada but can't play because they have to do school and work or whatever at home. Yet they're still finding time to improve and grind on the European ladder to be in challenge. The Clem qualified, right? I think is one of the European guys. And I find that dynamic so interesting that you can have these excuses made. And I know it's not all NA players, right? But it is a majority of them. I speak to them regularly. And you got a couple of guys who break away from the pack, like John Snow and some others. But then you don't, I think the work ethic just isn't there or something. So it does produce worse games, as sad as that is to like actually admit.
Yeah, and I'm not turning into a hate on NA thing either. I more just kind of say, as a segment on WCS Challenger, I would love to sit here and tell you the games are amazing today and be that NA or EU, I would have, but they weren't. And that's like, I hope that's a day one issue. And tomorrow, for whatever reason, we just have better games, because that's actually where I'm at right now. If we go through all of Valencia and it's all 3-0s and then like a good final again, then I'll be like, guys, what's happening? Is the map pool too good? And is that a thing that happens or something when it's too good of a map pool? Because, it's not a good thing for a StarCraft personality to sit on their show and be like, the game's awesome, we're shit. But the game's awesome, we're shit. So if it keeps happening, it's going to be kind of weird.
Well, you have 3 more days of WCS Challenger, right? So
and then the playoffs.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
We have 5 days in total, so it's 3 days. We have nothing on the 15th, and then 2 days this weekend, and then the playoffs are a week later, and they'll be commentated by Mr. Rotterdam, Fear Dragon, and Nathanius.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, there's some good groups coming up. I think that maybe it was just the groups in general. You have Cyril in a group; it's probably going to be one-sided. This other group, it's definitely not a bad group, but for NA, but. Some of these other groups look a lot more exciting. Neeb, Jon Snow, M. Canning, Epic in one group. I'm like, oh, that's a
great group.
Watch that one right there.
I didn't get to see any of the results from today because I was actually sleeping time zone wise before the show came up, and I think that's when this was broadcast. But I do know that there's to kind of redeem some of my comments just now a little bit too. There are some really hardworking people in those brackets that I'm excited to see that hard work pay off for. There's guys you expect like Neeb and whatever, right? But then there's some guys like Kane, who he's always been the guy to nonchalantly play it off like he doesn't practice, but he works his ass off.
And was eliminated today.
Okay, well, he's eliminated today. But the point was like, you've got these guys who they are in this bracket, and they are working. Okay, maybe they got eliminated. That totally sucks. But I want to see one of them get through. And it's like that hard work really did pay off, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, Kane was a bad example.
No, I like it because you were doing Remember the Titans, and I just ended with Old Yeller. I just he's dead.
It was good. It's good. All right. Well, that's WCS Challenger. On to the next subject. Definitely something I think Winter, you could probably talk about a little bit. PSISTORMCup VI. We just had that LAN tournament. It ended up being won by Neeb over True with a 4-3 finals.
And I want to talk about, you touched on this earlier, guys, the stream channel and how that affects tournament performance, by the way. So let's get to that, because that's something people don't talk about at all.
Well, what were the stream numbers like? Like, what are we talking about here?
I actually just linked this in the...
I don't actually know exactly what they look like, but I'll tell you the circumstances as well while that is coming up.
Well, here, just Winter, one sec, just so everyone on the show knows to look. In the show prep channel, I linked 2 Fusic links. That's day 1 and day 2 viewership. And you can see specifically theirs and Winter's, just so for context.
So what happened is KJ or Freedom, who is the co-owner, founder of PSISTORM Gaming, he pretty much contacted me, invited me out because I've done events like Gamescom, probably the most noticeable one. But I'm at the event. It's not like a major tournament or anything, but I'm streaming there. I'm like, and for this event, it was really cool. It's the first time they were in like the government center of Fairfax, Virginia. We're in this hallway with a ton of computers. So it's got that small LAN feel. It's not like a high profile WCS points event. So I was able to, I stream every day. I'm on my channel, 200,000 something followers. And I could stream from there. They had that whole setup. So that was great. And I actually played in the tournament. And what I really liked for this LAN tournament, and with a lot of people who aren't grandmasters or challengers or whatever coming in, obviously you got Neeb and True and Xanster, but then there's players like me and a lot of other GMs, and even some Diamond and Platinum players came out. It was Swiss style rounds. So that means everyone who showed up paid the entrance fee, got to play 6 matches, whether those matches were against Neeb or against other Diamond players. But you get in, and that created, especially the first day, was really cool because I'm down there playing with the players, and then in between my matches, I do a cast or who wants to do an interview, grabbing people. And the setup, that actually ended up working out because I love doing that. Like, I'm at an event, so let's do the event, not just sit in my corner, do the stream type of thing. Unfortunately for the production, PSISTORM has a channel, but they've only ever used it for PSISTORM Cups, so it doesn't have that many followers, not that much publicity. And most of the stream, Gauntlet SC2, as she was doing the production. Amazing production. Yeah. So much cool stuff going on.
Wardy in the chat.
Okay. Oh my God.
No, Wardy, this isn't about you this time. No.
Oh,
precisely.
Yeah. I'm not I have no sides. I just cast all the games and nobody notices.
This is just the Pylon Show drama that we're going to create this thing out of it. I love it. Go ahead, keep going. Sorry, we're derailed you.
But yeah, they kind of set up this professional production. They have all this. The casters were on literally another level. They were a level above where all the players are. They were looking down on all of the players.
Aren't they always? Aren't they always?
Of course,
for sure.
But it create this felt like one of those kind of grassroots lands. Or a couple $1,000s on I think $3,000 is the prize pool. And I mean, it felt great for me to be there on the floor with all these people that I might meet on the ladder and stuff and interact with. But it didn't work, in my opinion, so much as that DreamHack or IEM style tournament of here's a 15-minute screen with sponsors and we're back to the matches and then super official. It was a lot of fun to just be there. And I mean, I have my stream, I have my followers, so the viewers reflected that. And then I hosted for the finals and everything as just a thank you for having me out and all that. But I really like the event as being an ingrained, embedded part of it, as opposed to the here's the next match, here's an interview, here's the commercial, here's the next match type of stuff.
Okay.
Oh, and the finals were actually amazing. Most of it leading up to it. Neeb versus True 4-3. There were some really sick games actually ending on Redshift. So that's a Game 7 map if we've ever seen one. But yeah, the finals are actually, I think, worth a look on twitch.tv/PSISTORM Gaming. So.
I did tune in for parts of the event. I couldn't watch the whole thing the whole way through, but I was gonna say it's funny you brought it up for production because the first thing I was gonna comment was whoever did it was nailing it. The only negative thing was I think like the interview cam was kind of garbage, but like the actual transitions.
I was right
like,
next to it, like moving my webcam, seeing people walking through because we're just in this hallway. There's a camera, the interview, and completely oblivious, just people in this fair that it's connected to, just walking through the shot every like 30 seconds. It was a good time.
What were the viewership numbers, Rifkin, that you linked? I can't click on it because I'm on a laptop and I'm useless.
Right. Okay, so that's what I was going to get interesting about this. And this is a topic I'm going to dive into, but you can stop me if you'd rather not. First off, PSISTORM Gaming on average, I think it was day one, had really low viewers, like 300, maybe. I think they peaked, according to this, about 763 until it came to the winter host. And then as soon as you see winter go offline on these stats, PSISTORM jumps up and boom, 2,000. And that's really cool. And what was more impressive, and this is, I think, a really important mark, is that they held those numbers. A lot of the time you host somebody, everyone knows it's like the numbers just dwindle over time. It's just a matter of how fast do they dwindle. But after getting that bump to 2,000, they actually rode that out towards the finals as winter.
Well, I think it's a bit of the clash, the interference as well. Like there are some people that would have watched any tournament link, but since I was there, were watching me on top of the people that were already on my stream. So when I already talked, it depends on the priority of the event and the event organizer. Like this event is to get more word out about PSISTORM Gaming, to promote their players, not necessarily to get viewership. So me being there, reaching out to the audience
and helped the tournament, I guess is what we can take away.
Yes.
Yes. But this is what's interesting about it, though. And this is where I think this is a mistake made by a lot of people out there. And I have some specific examples I'll provide. But just to be clear, like I in no way think PSISTORM failed this event. I think it was really cool. And as long as they were able to appease their sponsors, then, job well fucking done, right? But the idea is that as someone who creates content, you want as many eyes on it. You want people to love what you're watching. You want to see that viewership number rise, right? And two things I noticed like right off the bat was there's no front page time for this. I know that even one of the co-owners of PSISTORM Gaming works at Twitch, and it just made me like, why was there no front page time for at least the finals type thing? And that's something that you can coordinate pretty well with Twitch as long as you do it ahead of time. So if you know your event's on blank, you can request and most of the time people do last minute requests. But as long as you do it like a week or two or even a month in advance, you're almost going to get that front page time more often than not. So I thought that was a bit of a missed note there. But the viewership in general being low, I think is partially because, yes, Winter was streaming and Winter was there and he draws some of that away. But part of it is it's a channel that's not established for this kind of stuff. And I'm going to say subjectively, I don't want anyone to misinterpret this. There's no hate or malice in this, right? But you look at channels like Ballistics Gaming or ES Champ or like these groups of people who throw these once-off tournaments, or with Ballistics more weekly tournaments, on brand new channels or channels that aren't used more than once a month. And Twitch is actually even more guilty of this on a bigger scale for other things. But the point of this is these channels don't have a following. There's no notifications going out to people saying that this is live. You rely on your social media presence to carry you for it. And I just don't think it's that effective. Whereas if you host this on someone else's channel, i.e. the way the Pylon is doing this, right, is a good example. If the PylonShow with this star-studded cast went live on a brand new Twitch channel, I'm sorry, but even with Artosis and Jeff and everyone tweeting about it, there's going to be like maybe 50 to 100 viewers. Yeah. But this is iNcontrol's channel. It's been built up. There's a fan base. People know that this is a centralized place to come hang out now. 10 episodes in, boom, 1,000 viewers is pretty easy to get. And I feel like, and I'm not going to say use me for this, but anybody, had they reached out to anybody, like had this been on Base Trade TV or had this been on iNcontrol's channel or Winter's channel instead of PSISTORM's channel, so no necessity for a host, the viewership would have been much more successful for this event.
And that's why I find this conversation really interesting, because Dan and I had an example of this too, and we experienced this where like if you host the StarCraft Brood War stuff, some of those events we did on Day 9's channel, it's just going to have a base of people that are going to tune in that's pretty substantial and pretty great. It's not like when Day 9 streams, by the way, that he has 36,000 people watching him. He doesn't. But he has a base of 3,000 people, and then he's got, of course, a fan base of people that are like, if he's playing StarCraft, I'm there. That's probably even larger than that. So each of those events we did had 36, 40,000 people. And then there's these other Brood War events that go elsewhere, and they have a fraction of that. We did an event with the same people, by the way, Day 9, Tastosis, myself. We did it for, who the fuck was that, Dan? Sotac. They did it on their channel. And this is where the conversation is interesting for me, because the idea of having people on your channel to grow it is interesting, because that works. And it does work. The channel will grow. But if you're investing into a tournament like the Psy Cup one, but also Zotac, and you're spending money to send these people out there, it doesn't grow it enough to justify the cost. That viewership we had, was it like 5,000 or maybe 10 at the most?
So, to just kind of elaborate on what you're saying here, right?
Yeah.
We had 4 awesome Brood War events that we did. There was the launch event. There was the Zotac Cup. There was
SC20 and Brawl.
Holiday Bash and the
Holiday
20.
Bash. Yeah.
And all of it was day 9 in control, Tasteless Artosis, and then a bunch of awesome games. And 2 of them had StarCraft 2 in them as well. But yeah, like when it was on day 9 TV or StarCraft built channels, 20, 30,000 viewers, 40,000 viewers, huge amounts of people watching. The Zotac Cup one, in my opinion, was actually the best content of all. I think that was actually
certainly the most controversial. Yeah.
Larva, yeah.
It had the Larva million view clip from Twitch, and it had a lot of players there, and it had like some really funny sequences that we did for the downtime and stuff. I actually thought that might be the best event out of all of them, but because it was on some other channel, we peaked at like 7K or something, and it's just this interesting thing. I see it go wrong all the time, and like this is one of the reasons why I was so surprised how bad YouTube live stream was for a while, where like you couldn't even have a channel to build. It was just like a new link every time, and like,
oh my God,
this, sometimes in Korea I'll be like, please just put it on the Twitch GSL channel. This new channel, no one's ever been there. It's so hard to build this. It takes so long, and then you try to tell me no one wants to watch, and that's not the case. It's not the case. The channel has so much to do with it.
I feel like there might be some ego from the companies, or maybe it's even a legal logistical problem, but it is something where it's so much simpler. If you're spending $20,000 to make this event work, why not pay the extra X amount to get this on a channel that's worthwhile, right? To put on iNcontrol or Artosis or whoever. Like for PSISTORM, for example, too, like I'm just using an example. I'm not saying we should do this or anything, but you put it on base trade, a lot of our audience has crossover, a lot of Winter's audience has crossover. You put it on Winter's channel, you put it on base trade's channel. You don't even have to involve the people who own the channel. You don't even have to have Zomgrub, Rifkin, Winter casting.
Well, here's the
people
thing,
know that that's an essential place to hang out, right?
This is again the unpopular Jeff thing to say, unfortunately, but I'm going to be that guy that kind of pulls the curtain back sometimes. You don't have to pay to have it on their channel. In fact, you work it into the negotiation that you pay them less because it's on their channel. That's part of the pay.
You're getting the ad revenue, you're getting the views, so we'll pay you less. Like it makes sense, but
you begin to at least negotiate that.
The other part of this too, though, I think it needs to be realized too, is for just so everyone watching is aware, viewership. I know this is a crazy concept. Hear me out. I promise you, I'm not lying to you. Viewership doesn't always matter, and it doesn't always determine the success of the event. But viewership will always be talked about, no matter what. Like you could have the most successful Zotac event of all time, but the idea is that you want to be remembered for the content, not for the viewership number associated with it. And you could easily eliminate that part of the problem by doing these other steps, right? But at the same time, just from the content creator, you put on a tournament, you just want everybody to watch it, man. You don't care about the money it makes. You just want people to enjoy your content. And that's a pretty big deal too. It's
interesting. And I actually don't even know that it gets simplified to what you were saying. I mean, I'm sure that's part of it, but I think it's actually just a misunderstanding of how these numbers work. Like, I don't necessarily think that it's PSISTORM having ego and they're like, no, we're going to have it on our channel because we're the best. I think they actually just did it because they're like, well, with all these great people and this great content, we got Winter here, surely this means the viewership won't be affected at all. It'll just grow our channel. People will follow it. And then our future events will have more followers. And they're not wrong. It will, but it usually comes at the cost of the event you're doing it to, because you're bringing new people there. But this is like an ongoing, interesting science too, because it's not perfect. And that's why I like talking about it, because you still see big events chucking hundreds of thousands of dollars around like Zotac Cup did, and they have amazing content. Seriously, go to their YouTube and watch those clips that we all did. That's some of the funniest shit we've ever done. But because it was on a new channel, just a huge percentage of people didn't go. So if you could rewind time, PSISTORM Cup Gaming, be like, we got Winter here, it's on his channel, and then I would hand him a package of graphics and be like, Winter, please make sure that you know that this is about advertising this cup. I know that you're a really supportive, awesome guy. If you're comfortable with it, we're going to take over your channel for the weekend. And then that's Winter's opportunity to be like, you know what, actually, I am comfortable with that, but you're going to have to pay me an appearance fee. Or maybe he's just like, nah, for this time, I'm really good with friends with you guys. We're just going to do it. Whatever. That happens behind closed doors. But the point is, you have that discussion. And you'll be surprised by the results because Sean's a really private guy. I'm going to just say because we're in too deep because there's no other example. But it was kind of funny because Sean came to us and was like, yeah, and I think they're running it on on my channel. And we're like, oh, shit. Okay, yeah. Did you ask for that? And he's like, no, they just gave it to me. And we were like, okay. So all of a sudden, Day 9's channel has 40,000 people on it. And they're watching fantastic Brood War content. And guess what? He got a bunch of subs. He got a bunch of follows. He got a bunch of people that were like, this is great. His regular viewers who normally would have his stream offline, so he's losing subs, were instead being given great content. It's really good for the streamer, but it's also really good for the event. But to Rifkin's point, you have to make this like interesting exchange of like, no, we're going to spend money and not get it back, but we're going to introduce people to our channel in the hope that we eventually establish a big channel.
And it's just it's a slow grind no matter what. Like you can watch some of these Twitch rivals, right? They had PUBG before they did the StarCraft stuff. They had a PUBG tournament, and the viewership there was like 20,000 easily, but the channel only got like maybe like 1,000 followers from it. Like it's just it's such a slow build up that it's just, to me as a streamer, not worth it.
I think, and then there's the other side of it for PSISTORM. I mean, I think some things could have been better, but really, it was about like getting the word out about PSISTORM gaming and a few players, a few interviews, but it wasn't supposed to be like we need the highest viewership and all that. And I think sometimes that's the right priority, and I think it actually made a lot of sense. It's a $3,000 prize pool. This is not like any major like game breaker. There can always be more done, but overall, like it depends on the circumstances. Like if you're holding like a Twitch Rivals tournament, it's on Twitch. You want as many viewers as possible. It's Twitch, right? Like that's different than a gaming team that sponsors players and wants more interest in those players, for example.
Well said.
By the way, there's just to cap us off really quick. I'm sorry. There's actually a really intelligent person in chat. I don't want to avoid the comment up here.
It's me.
It's in control, but it's also another guy named David. And I'm actually just going to read out what he says verbatim because I think it's very well put. The value of a viewer is way different than the value of a streamer to an event creator. If you're PSISTORMCup, you're worried about what you promise your sponsors, the views. Would they be able to charge more in the future? It's not about donations and mid-rolls to them. And that's very true. And that's why I said, like, I think the PSISTORMCup was successful. Like, it looked really cool. It did, I think, his job of getting the name out there, showing good games. And I'm sure KJ was probably very happy with it. But, of course, we're taking this from the point of what we know best. And that's the streaming. That's the numbers. That's the viewership stuff that we're all grinding on.
Well, also, I just know everything, Rifkin. Go ahead. Dan, next subject.
Okay. Last subject before the questions, real quick. GSL Code S. Okay.
Don't spoil last night. Okay.
Too bad.
Oh, yeah, go spoil.
Last week, we had the second part of the round of 8 where Zest 3-0'd Deer. It was such a bopping. Deer looked crushed at the end. It was very sad. And then TY took out Gumo in a ridiculous 3-2. It was just an awesome TVT series. One of the best of the tournament. The best TVT I've seen all year, I think. And then last night, Zest versus TY. Did anyone get to see that? I know it's a crazy time for you all.
I did. Oh, I end right around that time. I try to go and then host GSL.
It started 3 hours before our call time, Dan.
And you didn't watch it?
Shut up.
So Zest took out TY 4-3 in a crazy series.
I learned nothing from that one. I have no idea. What do you think? What we like as a player going to the ladder should take away from that one? I'd love to hear.
Ooh, you're gonna have to be really careful because TY showed a new cheese that no one's ever seen before with Proxy, Concussive Marauder with Cyclone, and 4 SCVs to repair, and it was like Zest got so bashed in that game. But the game, it was just like a crazy aggressive series. TY tried to go mech once, like showed every map, obviously. It was just really fantastically played. Those guys were on fire, and it seems like Zest is back. He's in the finals, so that's exciting. And the next, I know we're super over time. I thought I was the one making this go long, but
it's me all along.
But yeah, on Saturday, 1 p.m. KST, Maru versus Classic. We'll definitely go along.
How many games does Maru lose?
Because it's
this shows a good example of how we should have negotiated for money, Winter.
Well, actually, we're supposed to be paying you guys for a while.
Eventually, we're gonna We're gonna hit that.
No, I've enjoyed these topics a lot, actually, and being involved in the conversation is even cooler. So I thank you guys for having, like, I don't care how long it takes personally.
Yeah, we aren't doing
Yes,
shout outs yet, Rifkin.
We're not there yet.
Calm down.
You're not gonna get paid if you don't stay until the end. Like, wait, I'm not. Yeah, I know. Yeah, we'll just jump out of GSL Code S. We'll go over that more next week when we have some more time. Probably Jeff will be off winning.
I'll actually be there, sir. Thank you very much.
Whoa, 2 weeks in a row.
And at my home rig too. So I'll get this shit back on. We'll do a 45-minute episode. I'll get it real quick. You guys work?
Yeah, we'll make up for it. We do a 5-minute episode. You interview 2 of the guests, and that's it, and then turn the show. Okay, into the questions. Into the priority Patreon questions. Don't forget.
How do you get into the priority Patreon questions, Artosis? How do people do that?
Well, you go to patreon.com/ThePylonShow, and you subscribe with enough money per month.
But Dan, that's crazy. Why would people give money to this show?
Support. They want to support
Wait,
the show.
That's
You guys have a Patreon and a Matcherino? Talk about selling
do.
out.
On top of that, I need people to
Diversify.
subscribe to my Twitch channel as well while we do these shows. Imagine that. That's our sellout moment of the hour. So go ahead, Dan.
There you go. Okay, let me just go through some of these questions. We're going to start picking them up. From Blinker, SC2 is believed to have an older audience and player base. Do the metrics and demographics prove this point? If so, does this mean for the business side of esports or the game in general for growth and new pro talent?
I can confirm the first part for sure.
Go for it.
Yeah.
But just my YouTube, especially, but Twitch now has metrics as well. I mean, by every metric, StarCraft does have an older audience than I'd say every game on Twitch. Maybe not everyone, but like every major esport out there right now, it has a more mature audience as well, which is good.
More beautiful.
More beautiful, more handsome, more intelligent.
Smarter.
Yep.
Yeah,
Generally, they're
for the same thing, but
the leaders of this world. Yeah.
you can definitely see that. Like, I'll see some people coming in the chat, like they remind me of me when I was first couple years of college coming in. But there's also plenty of people who are older than me. I think on YouTube right now, of my views, according to YouTube, who knows how perfectly accurate it is, about 65% of my views are over 24. So that's
really old.
Gives you some, especially for YouTube and YouTube gaming. So that's a stat to throw out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed it just in the difference in like, I watch a lot of other games and I play other games too. I'm actually, of all of us, I guess I'm the most unloyal to StarCraft, I suppose.
Literally winning Warhammer tournaments. Jesus, dude. How dare you?
Remember when we played games without computers?
I remember.
He's actually not even disloyal to StarCraft. He's disloyal to computers. Jesus Christ.
That's right. And the great robot takeover does happen. I'll be the guy that's like still entertained by figurines and stuff.
For the Emperor.
I actually don't have a point anymore. It's fine. We just move on.
Okay. But yeah, I think it doesn't mean anything about the new pro talent we get.
Oh yeah, there's still plenty of new
no.
people coming in at every age.
For the business side, I've heard it said before that you get more for your dollar advertising on StarCraft, both because there's less advertisements and because there's a higher purchasing rate. I don't know if that's true. Rifkin, you'd probably know better than me, but just because people who watch are older, they're more likely to have a job and income, unlike people who just download a free game when they're 12.
Yeah. There's people with like a fraction of the audience of other games, and they have more subs and they have more people supporting them in StarCraft. Largely in part because it's an old, established game, but also because a larger percentage of that base of people that are watching just have jobs.
For another element to this too, not that this is actually something I'm proud of, but there is this degree of like, I don't want my game to die. So maybe that's that extra push to actually buy the product, make sure that the next tournament happens type thing. I see that a little bit, not a lot, but I do see that.
I think that's kind of fallen off a bit since free to play.
The game's actually got more audience, and
statistically, as much as well. But yeah, I've noticed
the game's
before
gonna die, head
that.
over to Rifkin's channel, though.
Oh, he's taken it.
Okay, next question from Bryota. Hey, thanks for the great show. Do you think the pro scene could do more to encourage female gamers to play StarCraft?
You can always do more. Is like the
question for all the males here.
No, I think I love the discussion of women in gaming. I think it's something, and I think it's actually sadly something that a lot of people need to just have put in front of their face. The Battlefield 5 launch, actually, there's like a number of people, and it's always blown up more than it is, but there was still a number of people that were like, women in World War II? That's goddamn disrespectful. I don't like it. I can't. Anyways, that whole subject, I'm sorry I brought it up. My stomach is turning just thinking about it. I actually have a real point.
Okay.
Yes. You have to understand, when you do a show with Jeff, I say things that don't matter all the time, but sometimes I actually have something to say. Absolutely. The answer is yes. It's just kind of like a weird, we are guys, so it is going to be mansplaining at some point of like, here's how you get more women into gaming. I don't think we know, but the question of should there be more done? Yeah, absolutely. Just make it a better, more comfortable place for women to play without feeling like they're being threatened or objectified and so.
I think that this actually is a topic that doesn't necessarily pertain just to women, but more like just people in general for StarCraft. Because the reality is, it's not that women are bad at video games and they can't play a hard game like StarCraft. Yeah. But in general, StarCraft is a harder game, so it turns off a lot of people. So by percentages, you have less women getting into it through that regard as well.
Can I just say I agree with Rifkin? How do we get more white males into StarCraft? Actually, can we turn this question into that? Actually,
the Koreans.
But I'm just saying, if there's more people in general, there will also be more women with that statistic. So
that's right.
I think it's difficult to get people into StarCraft is the real tackling issue. And then once that gets solved, you can totally focus on getting more women into StarCraft.
I agree with Rifkin. If we can get more white males in here, with the white males come the women. So it's like, chicken or egg. Why do people always ask about women? Let's get, I'm trolling, by the way. For the people that don't sense sarcasm,
I'm not
thinking is good.
I can't involve myself with this.
But I don't think there's any. I think we're well past the arguments. Like, there's no reason a female pro gamer can't be as good as a male one. Like, there's no barrier there and start. Okay, do you want to? I don't think so. In my opinion, there's nothing really. The barrier, I think, a lot of the time is the community, and just superficially, it's very hard to get past all the I guess female content creators and streamers and stuff. Like, it takes a thick skin to get past a certain barrier where you're just being pushed away by all the people being edgy in Twitch chat or anywhere in general once they I guess figure out your true identity as the minority in anything, really. So
let me just say this. The honest answer to this question is, what can we do to encourage it? If you see people of minority descent, whatever that is, minority as in women in gaming or whatever, just be an ally, be an advocate, be a helper, as opposed to someone like, and this, I actually can even attest to this myself. I'll play CSGO some nights and a guy will be like yelling at a girl, not even yelling, but just being uncomfortable. He's like, oh, you're a chick. You want to suck my dick later? And like, the uncomfortable thing, especially if you're playing a CSGO match and the second you start yelling at this guy, he's going to quit and you're going to lose the game. But what you should do is be like, yo, man, that's not cool. Please stop. And just offer the voice of help. And in StarCraft, this happens too. And if you even just do that much, you're helping on some level, and it makes the person feel like, oh, okay, there's somebody out there that's caring about my plight. Maybe it doesn't even change it. Maybe it does like, dude, you sound like a douche too. You want to suck my dick? Does anybody want to suck my dick? Does any of the 5 people that can hear me want to suck? And it gets weird.
Actually, I just want to point out, this is happening right now, literally, like in Twitch chat. I know the YouTube VOD will be missing this. People are being shitty, and ZombieRub's actually being proactive and timing them out. Whereas if you just let those comments stand, it festers and spreads. When you start realizing those comments are getting timed out, you're less likely to make them. And
here's the thing, too, with Rifkin, I just agree again. You and I are just like mind melding. ZombieRub's only able to do that because I bestowed upon her the power to ban people. So actually, when it really gets down to it, it's kind of a man was able to give a woman the power to stand up for herself. And that's what Rifkin was saying. So I think that's actually a pretty beautiful point. Dan, next question. We can just move on from there.
Next question.
That wraps it up.
Is there a way I could pay ZombieRub less to do this? To just wrap it up?
Oh my God.
Sorry, I'm done. I can't. I'm gonna get in trouble.
From Pariah, who is your StarCraft mentor or role model? And how did they influence you to become a better player, commentator, or content creator?
I like it. Dan, you start with. Who helped you?
Oh, well, I mean, I was like one of the first 2 commentators, so I don't really have anyone for that.
So DJ Wheat, then I guess.
Players, so I don't really have anyone.
Would you owe all of your success to Red Eye? Do you think is that a fair kind of?
I think that's almost accurate. I guess as a player, the pro I most looked up to as far as Terran playing StarCraft 1 was Isla Vuv, but I don't think that this. I don't think I can answer the question too well.
Do you guys have a senpai that you looked up to in your careers?
I actually have a really, really super lame answer that I know iNcontrol is going to make fun of me for. So if I could just request you make fun of me after I make my answer.
Received.
Because when I started Base Trade TV, I reached out to a ton of people to try and get help, whether it was learning how to talk better or more about the game. In fact, even iNcontrol has a message in his inbox from like 2000 Circuit 13 from Rifkin just asking like advice that never got ever responded to. So it was tough because people
I was waiting for the end of that. I was like, did I?
Well, no, here's the thing. People I looked up to never got back to me, so it was difficult to take any sort of inspiration from them, right? Because either you were too tall and too far gone. Like I could never really take inspiration from Artosis. He was too far up the ladder for me, right? So my weird answer is actually, and you're
gonna say yourself, aren't you?
No, I'm gonna actually say Zombie Grub because I worked off of her and with her, building everything for like whatever years it was that we worked together. And most of the stuff I would do is I'd look back on the cast and I'd see like what she was doing right that I wasn't, because she is still to this day better at StarCraft than me. She knew what she was talking about and still does more than me. And she's probably the person I learned most of just by working with her every single day. And I definitely think that contributed to my self-improvement. So have at her, son.
I like that. No, that's good. I'm not going to make fun of you for that answer. It's beautiful. I like that. I think it's cool. The show keeps getting honest answers out of people except for Artosis. I think it's awesome. Winter.
My answer was the most.
Nobody. Dan.
Artosis, you looked up to the
everyone I looked up to do this. Sorry.
Oh my God. I'll show you an actual appropriate answer in a minute, but Winter, go ahead.
And I mentioned him earlier.
Taste is out there, by the way, with his broken hand going, really, Dan? Sorry, Winter. I'm just...
it's all right.
Yeah.
I'd let that go back and forth as long as it could play out. But I did mention earlier, I think the person I took the most from, it's kind of hard to go back that far, but like I watched a lot of, and since he's not around nowadays, but a lot of Axlav is who I think was the first person to do the type of stream I do a lot of the time, which is just like talking a lot and commentary and all of that. And then I was watching people like Destiny, who put on an entertaining stream when he was streaming StarCraft, and he was one of the first ones. And I actually, Day 9, I watched for a while I was starting out, and
if you say that, I'm going to ban you, though. That's kind of weird.
Well, I've taken Husky's Bronze League Heroes, and now I've done more episodes of it, so I guess that's mine now. If he wants to take it back, he's welcome to come on the show, I'm sure.
51% of the Bronze League content on YouTube.
But Day 9, I think, said something to me that I already knew it, but resonated. I come up to him like some Twitch party or something where I'm just getting into it. I'm like, if there's one piece of advice, what would you tell me to do to actually like improve? And he's just said, if you think of an idea, just do it. Don't ask. Don't go on Reddit, be like, who wants to see this? Or tweet, who wants to see this? Do it. Figure it out. Does it work? Does it not work? Could it get better? And don't. It's more of a just get it out there and figure it out from there, because that's the way that content works nowadays. Is people see your best stuff more recently. The older stuff, like you go back to me casting in like 2013, had some room for improvement. Still have room for plenty of improvement, but there's been improvement because I've just kept going at it. So
I like that. My answer is it's got one part of it I've been like psyching myself up not to cry about for a little while here. It's going to get emotional, but and this is a great question. Love it. For me, it's no one person, but it's kind of, I was very fortunate to be raised, if you will, in a StarCraft environment of just love and passion. Like I have very fond memories of sitting on Ventrilo with Artosis and Machine and these guys, and we just loved fucking playing StarCraft. We just loved that stuff, and we played a lot of it, and we practiced, and we cheered each other on, and we had fights, and we made fun of each other, and we got to see each other at events, but it just created this atmosphere of love around that game. And then these are some of my best buds that sometimes I don't talk to for a long time, but like when we do talk, it's like old brothers, and then it's just an amazing network of people to have. And then as we kind of went our separate ways, or for some of us kind of kept on the path of StarCraft, we've continued to back each other up and inspire each other and talk and have the honest talk. So a lot of that beginning segment where I was saying have people you can bounce ideas off of, I think of like, and I talked about this story. I'm not going to be able to tell the whole story because I've already taken too much time as it is. But Rotterdam is one of the most honest, good friends you can have. Where if you're doing something on stream that he thinks may or may not be good, he'll actually fucking ask you about it and kind of call you out on it, not in a mean way, but in a like, hey, I noticed this thing. What do you think about it? And to have a friend that's willing to ask that kind of uncomfortable but go that area is amazing. And the same is true with Dan in particular. There's been times, a lot less so because I've just kind of evolved into almost a perfect human being. But back in my more formative days, Dan too has been the guy that is like, hey, you're a jerk about that, or like, you know, you need to tone that shit down or whatever. And I value and respect him enough to be like, okay, shit, that's not what I say. At first I'm like, shut up, Dan. But then later I'm like, okay, maybe he actually had a point or something. But then the honest answer too, and to keep this a little bit, it's those people. There's too many to name. But one of the biggest ones over the last couple of years has been the work ethic of Total Biscuit, working alongside him while he's fucking fighting for his life against cancer. Was one of the most inspiring things I've ever been able to be around. And I don't believe in coincidences that much. I think I was meant to be alongside him during that. But like, when I say alongside, by the way, I'm not trying to take too much credit. I mean, in my capacity. But he never, there's no moment at the end of a 10-hour stream of Shoutcraft was he like, hey, I'm fighting cancer. That really sucked. I got to go to sleep. He would just be like, all right, well, that was a great show. Let's talk about what we can do better next time. And we'll do it better next time. And for me, I was just like, I'm so tired because this is an early hour in the day, you know, but when you're with him and working that hard, you can't help but to respect it, but be inspired by it. So I think about that almost every day. And I hope to for the rest of my life. So he was an amazing influence on me as just a person in general, but I met him through StarCraft.
That was certainly a better answer than mine. Thank you for the question, Pariah. Going on to the next one from Gilbert. In the scope of esports, should marijuana be considered a performance enhancing drug? Hey, guys, if you sign up on patreon.com/ThePylonShow and you hit that tier, you can ask that question. We're going to answer it.
I like it. Put it behind a paywall. That's a good one. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I feel like
no.
if you're super high playing StarCraft, you're either going to be doing crazy cool, like innovative things, or you're just going to be super shit. I don't think there's a middle ground.
I think it's the second one. I would lean heavily that way.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks I'm stoned anyways. Every day I get on the stream. I woke up 2 hours ago, so.
We need Roddy to answer that question since he does everything stoned, right? And he's Dutch, I think, so he's probably from Amsterdam. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Gilbert.
I think Mark asked a question. He said to check the Patreon Discord channel.
Okay, he didn't ask it in the priority questions, so he's going to have to wait until after that.
I like it.
But I will definitely check it for him. A couple more in the priority from B Hamicha 123. Hey guys, love the show. SC1 is patched via maps. Do you think that mainly happened because Blizzard didn't pay attention to the scene and the current state of SC balance, which forced people to balance indirectly through maps?
I guess so. And we're talking about 15 years ago at this point in time. Like they did do balance patches back then. But that only persisted for a little while. This current state of like StarCraft 2 getting patched all the time and these games getting patched, that's kind of a relatively new thing. Like back in the day, if a game had a game-breaking terrible thing, then the game had to fix it. But that wasn't kind of the standard procedure. And I feel like Brood War fell into a groove of by the time you would think to go back and patch stuff for balance, that it was too locked in. And it was like, they struck gold too, by the way, because 20 years later, it's not like it's only Terran that wins. It's this like ridiculous thing. It's like pretty freaking balanced for the most part. It's not balanced, but it's pretty close.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because that's how they had to tackle the problem with Flash, right? Not nerf Marines for everybody else, but build maps for 11 seasons around trying to take him down specifically.
Yeah. Map creation in general has just helped guide the balance and try to keep all the races winning for forever in Brood War. And it's not something that Blizzard caused necessarily. It's a wonderful mistake, we normally call it. Okay. Thank you for the question. From Zach's World, to each person on today's show, if Blizzard said to you, hey, we're going to add $200,000 in prize money to StarCraft 2, and we want you to decide what to do with it, how would you allocate that money across different types of events or tournaments, and why?
It's a tough question. I get asked this kind of often. It's like the amount of money to have a big dent is unfortunately so high that it doesn't make sense to do that. But if you just are like, I got money, I want to help StarCraft, there's obviously the selfish answer of like host a tournament through base trade or sponsor a stream with Winter and, you know, have him do stuff with his fan base. But that ends up being, you know, it's good. And it's kind of, and if you want to do that, great. I liked the Shoutcraft angle that Total Biscuit was sponsored by Blizzard to do. And that was just money going out to the pro gamers. I think that's a place that's really nice. There's different angles to take. What do you guys think?
I'm actually just going to say, if this is strictly prize money, it makes it very different than if this was just a budget to add. Because a lot of people don't realize to host an event at like a big arena, that's going to cost you like between $50,000 and $100,000 a day. So that budget, the $200,000, is already gone just by hosting a 2-day event. You know, people play for like $1 prize pool. But if this is like, yo, yeah, we specifically want to spread this out to like community people who like are the Wardies and the Rifkins and the Gauntlets and the whoever's that are putting out this content, like that's a really fucking cool idea. But it's still hard to say like what's fair, what's not fair. They already have a system kind of in place that's like if you were like for DreamHack Atlanta last year, as much of a shit show as it ended up being for us, you know, we said Blizzard, hey, look, you're not doing anything at this event. If we partner with DreamHack, can you give us some cash? And they help provide a bigger prize pool because of it. So they kind of in a way do stuff like this already. It's weird to put a specific value on it, like 200,000, split it up amongst everybody, because there's no fair way to do it. But I think that.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I was interrupting. Go ahead.
Well, just to finish up, I think incentivizing more things that are like ladder heroes that reward the players rather than the content creators benefits everybody more, because then the players end up playing more, so they'll play other events to practice in. Because we've had people like Snoot and stuff say like they don't care that the Corsair Cup was a $100 prize pool. They just knew people were playing more seriously because money was on the line. So if you got everybody competing for things that are more like ladder heroes oriented, then even my tournaments still benefit from that, and then you as the viewers benefit from that.
Good point. Yeah,
I agree with that. And talking with a lot of like your top 50 GM, but not WCS tier, like that is, especially we were talking a little bit on NA competition, but maybe a little bit more region related, but focusing more on things like ladder heroes. If you focus on the players, that gives most of the content creators in esports more content already. So it's a double benefit as opposed to going directly to a content creator, for example, or to a tournament as well, but something that I hate to use, but like trickle down a little more.
Oh my God. Reaganomics. Okay.
Trickle down WCS.
But it works.
Yeah. But in this case, like incentivizing people to have that competition for like the top 50 or top 32 of the ladder, as opposed to it being like, well, there's WCS Challenger, see you in 2 months or whatever. So,
couple things. I agree with everything you guys said, and I really like that. I also think if you took that money and you made like a $10,000 donation to Homestory Cup, and you said this money will be returned to me unless Roddy pops off that shirt, I can almost guarantee you Dennis Take Geelan gets that motherfucking shirt off of Roddy's body quicker than you've ever seen anything come off somebody's body. So you can do fun stuff like that. I like the idea of sponsoring or help giving tournaments money because it's good for the players, but it also directly, it's not even fair to say indirectly, but you know, Rifkin benefits. He's got more people there. And then the other point it's going to make, if you don't have $200,000, we're talking a lot about ladder heroes, but you want to support, make sure and watch that shit, tweet that shit, make a thread on Reddit, post in it, talk about it. You don't have to have $250,000 to help with this stuff, because more eyes equals better sports sponsorships equals, you know, more visibility. It's better for the programmers, better for everybody. If you really care about the stuff, do what you can. That's that.
Sure. Just a little kind of contrary opinion real quick. I don't think that prize money is what would help the most. I think if you had 200K and you focused on making some good storylines and history segments in StarCraft, Jeff, you know, and actually you guys might have, no, I guess Jeff is probably the one that knows the best, but I've been kind of like pushing this for a while that I think that there should be some seriously nice content about the history of StarCraft. We have the old game with the best history, and almost no one knows anything about it. And in fact, a lot of it's going to be lost. Like if suddenly people like myself and Jeff and Day 9 and, you know, they disappear and, you know, not everything's on Wikipedia. There's like all these great history moments. And I think that this just kind of showing the long it's like you're part of this history now that you're playing this game. And it's like, I don't think that Cyril needs to win more money to help improve StarCraft. I think that that is completely unneeded. I think prize pools are overrated by far. So yeah, that's where I would spend it. Is I would make some really quality, like some history stuff, maybe some more player stories. I think things like the WCS signature series and stuff like that is just fantastic.
Which was so kind of criminally underwatched, I think.
Mhm.
Just overall, besides like at the BlizzCon stage. So yeah, stuff like that. I agree.
Okay. Mark didn't ask a question, Jeff, just so you know.
Wait, he works in mysterious ways. It's in there somewhere, but probably behind.
I checked every single channel we had while you guys were talking.
Fair enough.
He didn't ask it. He doesn't know how Discord works, I guess. Anyways, I'll ask one question out of the general one, and then we can wrap up.
Okay.
I don't want to completely ignore that. Sorry, guys, we went so long today, but next week we'll get more of the regular questions in there as well. Okay, last question from Erebus Black. Regarding the skill ceiling constantly being pushed higher over the life of StarCraft II, the dominant players in StarCraft II don't seem to have the same kind of legacy as your I Love Uv or Nada. What do you think this is, and what inhibits these legendary eras in StarCraft II?
I've always said it's the game. In Brood War, the skill ceiling is actually so high that no human can even like approach perfect play, which then means these guys that literally have heaps of talent that are like actual special specimens, but then also grew up in an area where at a young age they were playing the game, they're exposed to other people, they're talking and playing against innovators and people that are at the cutting edge of the game. We're able to see how high that can go. In Legacy, if StarCraft II launches in 2010 with Legacy of the Void now, which I still don't think is near Brood War skill level ceiling, but it's closer than it's ever been in StarCraft II, then maybe we do get to see some of those special players express themselves where they are, Innovation had a streak of like 3 months where he was pretty unbeatable in Heart of the Swarm, I think it was. But even in that streak, it felt more like he was just better than the people he was playing, as opposed to he was being pushed by these other guys. Because that's another aspect of this too. Like Nada was being chased by people. You think of the famous boxer in yellow, they were kind of chasing each other. And then later, Flash and Jaedong pushed each other as far as they could go. And they had Bisu there as well. So every great player you can name was being propelled by somebody in the scene that was right behind them. Whereas in StarCraft II, the few really dominant people, I think of Tasia for a streak of time, they kind of went uncontested. And then the game was a little bit segregated, right? Like even in Tasia's dominance, the Kespa pro gamers hadn't come over yet. So it was a lot of the very good Koreans, but none of them were like the absolute mega top tier. And then the game, like I said, when the game has a lower skill ceiling, people can be worse than you, but close to that level. Whereas in Brood War, you could be like, oh, I'm one of the best. I'm actually up here. And there's like, I'm really good. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm 4 times better than you. And that can actually happen in Brood War.
I like the way that you said that. And it's about the differentiation, because like both have skill ceilings that you can't hit. You're never going to get a perfect StarCraft II player either, but you can differentiate yourself much more in Brood War, I would say. Like there's a little bit more randomness, and we see this actually reflected. Like in Brood War, you can have tournaments where it's best of 1 like the whole way, and like the best player still wins. Whereas in StarCraft II, you'll have a lot more best of 5s and stuff. And that's a way to fix that, right? It doesn't make it better or worse, but yeah, like someone like Flash is like 10 times better than the 5th best player in the world. It's like not even close. Like the 5th best player in the world has such a hard time against him. It's crazy.
No, I know this is a bad example, but like one of the memes about me is I was never a very good StarCraft II player, and that's not entirely wrong. But in Brood War, I was legitimately pretty darn good for a non-Korean. Certainly not one of the absolute best, but I was up there. I was very good. I had a few opportunities to play players like I did play Bisu offline at LAN. I sat down with Savior and a couple of these guys. I played Flash to try out for the Bai Clan. And there's something to be said for like, I've taken my ass beatings in StarCraft II, but it never felt like I couldn't win. It just felt like I didn't. In Brood War, and even Idra, who was not one of the absolute best, in non-Korea he was, but in terms of Brood War, nope, not even close. Where he in his like best forms, I was like, there's nothing I can do. There's actually nothing I can do. And in Brood War, there's cheeses you can do,
Yeah.
But it just probably wouldn't work. It's just amazing.
So I think I've thought about this a lot for StarCraft 2. I don't know much about Brood War. I came in like Heart of the Swarm, so I missed that era, right? But I thought about this a lot for StarCraft 2, and I think the problem we see is the titles swap so often that I think in the first time since I've started getting really involved with the game, Neeb actually being a guy who's the bad guy to measure up against, like you don't have a way to overcome and become a new legend when there's no prior legend to overtake. And I think part of that's the way StarCraft's done with, and I'm not saying more patches is bad. I like that quite a bit. But the cause and effect is when all the Terrans are winning all the time, rather than people finding a way to play around it, Blizzard tends to nerf Terran. So suddenly we go into Heart of the Swarm, and all these legendary Terran players, they don't look legendary, not because they're any worse at the game, but they've been given a harder handicap going into it, right?
I agree.
So I kind of like, I wish in a way, I love the constant patches and the balance updates, and this is stuff I would never trade out. But I do, part of me wish that there was a way to establish a player for longer so that you did have somebody who was A, a legend, but B, somebody that you could strive to take down.
Okay. I basically agree with everything here. And I do want to point out, we do have a few people, like MVP, I think is kind of remembered in this vein, where it's like, well, MVP is just like, that's the god of StarCraft ever, right? And I think Innovation is right on that level and will be remembered like that. And I think we have some other guys that are doing that type of thing. You know, there's Nesty is always going to be remembered as one of these top guys. And, you know, so I think that there's a little bit of it, but for the reasons you guys said, those are good reasons.
As a quick aside, I know because we're pushing 3 hours here in 8 minutes, but MVP is one of the coolest players because he literally changed his play style because his hands were hurting so much and still found success. And I think that's incredible. His series against Life, who we were never supposed to mention, when he was going mech because he couldn't play any other style. That was some good ass StarCraft at a time where you weren't guaranteed to watch good StarCraft, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. We have to wrap this up. It's the longest show yet. I thought for sure when you came back, Jeff, it would speed the show along because somehow it's
I had so much to say
every week. It's getting sad. Okay. So Rifkin, where can people find you? What are you up to? What do you want people to know?
Frankly, it's actually a bit calmed right now because we're in a bunch of negotiations setting up combination Ting Season 5 and BTSL Season 2, which are all right on the horizon. So the only thing I really have to shout out is we do the Illuma League every Tuesday, as you guys know, really good Korean StarCraft content. But a lot of you might not be aware, Wednesdays, like this happened today, we actually host amateur tournaments, specifically putting caps in like Diamond League and below or Platinum League and below. It's called the BTSL Amateur Series. A lot of the information is available on Team Liquid. The thing we do about this, which is kind of neat, is rather than offer a prize value, like here's $50 for winning, we will instead cover the cost of coaching to the coach of your choice type thing for up to an hour.
Oh, that's cool.
And second place, we'll get like a co-op commander code or something. We're about 3 or 4 months into it now, which has been pretty cool. It's been pretty consistent. We've had, funny enough, like almost as many signups as a lot of the open pro cups we have. So there's a lot of amateurs competing. But if you guys, seriously, like no matter what league you are, if you happen to fit the requirements of the week of diamond and below or platinum and below, I really encourage coming out to play because they're short, they're quick, they're simple, and it's a good introduction to playing tournaments. So I would definitely recommend checking that out. It's the only real big shout out I have. But like I said, we're working on some cool projects, so keep your ears to the ground for the big stuff we're going to announce soon. And just follow Base Trade TV on Twitter, I guess, at Base Trade TV for those updates.
Great. And Winter, what about you?
Winter Gaming on Twitch, StarCraft Winter on Twitter, and Winter StarCraft on YouTube. A couple things that people might not know about, well, besides a Discord channel, the group in-game, you can search the Winter SC2 group. We just passed 7,000 members, usually be at prime time on the Americas server. You got between 30 and 50 people who are playing arcade games, custom games, like team games. Every once in a while, I get people who actually play 1v1. So you can usually find some people. I play viewer games as well on there. So if you play StarCraft, consider joining the group. Another thing, if you haven't yet checked out YouTube, I've got content like the best of the best and the best of the worst, but a series that has been very successful that I think if you're into the esports content, I'm calling it Eyes of a Pro Gamer, where pretty much I do a first-person cast of like the last one was Mana versus Special, but only watching Mana's camera during WCS Austin. I like it because it's different. Like you guys already covered the commentary pretty well at Austin, so try to find a different take on it, maybe learn something. And
Very
if
cool.
you're into esports, I would recommend that if you want to give my channel maybe a first or second shot. And I know there are a lot of people out there who watch this that maybe haven't watched me in a while. If you want an unban, twitter.com/StarCraftWinter, just give me your name. We have people who ask about that just in case. So thank you guys for having me on. I had fun, and I love talking about this stuff as well. I think all of us are in that same boat, but it's been exciting. So thank you.
Great. Thank you guys so much. And in control yourself.
Just thank you guys for being patient out there. Thank you, Dan, for putting up with me being gone for the 5 weeks or whatever it was, which is crazy. We actually picked this show to be on a Wednesday specifically because we're like, surely there will be no travel that happens on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
And then I got like 3 episodes in, and then it was like, hey, Dan. So just know that if I miss an episode, I'm not sitting on my couch picking belly button lint out of my stomach. I'm actually usually casting StarCraft, or I'm at a World International Warhammer. Something very important to me is the bottom line, but I'll be here as much as I can. Same with Dan. I'm waiting for Dan's got to miss an episode eventually, right? Like
We'll see about that.
it's gonna happen eventually at some point. And then for my stuff, just I will be on next week, so I'm really looking forward to that. I'll be at home. We'll have her set up, and then I want to shout out a couple people. I want to shout out Fear Dragon, who for the last 3 hours
He's just lying there wrapped up.
And that's because I'm a garbage human. I don't trust myself to be able to be on a computer alone. So he's like, I'll help you. So thank you to Fear Dragon. Thank you to Matt, who's been putting up with this as well. Dan would never say this, but he is really bad on Discord. So he actually only starts talking to Cobra usually the day before the show. And that means Cobra's got to pack all the work into the last 12 hours of his existence. So he's putting up with him
Cobra.
And me because I'm a shitty person too.
He's a saint. He's a saint.
He's actually the saint. He makes the show go. And now we're doing a 3-hour episode. He doesn't know this, but next week's 4.5-hour long episode. I have it all planned out.
You guys can't see him. His hands are very. He's like, oh my god.
But
This is
then
why
also,
we need a Cobra cam. They got cat cams. We need a Cobra cam.
we might have to do that. We'll have to do that. And it, just for my last thing, and I'm sure we'll do. I think Dan's been doing the plug, so I'll let him do that. But for me personally, just make sure if you got a Twitch Prime sub or something, give it to all these guys. But don't forget about old Poppy Jeff here too. I am at WCS, which means that my stream gets murdered while I'm gone. So if you guys can help shore that up on the Pylon Show, that'd be really nice. But I'll be back home making content for a whole week actually after this, and I can't wait to see you guys.
Great. And I guess I just will plug the show. Because you guys already know I do GSL, and sometimes I angrily stream Brood War or StarCraft 2.
The best angry though, your channel. Oh my god, I love it.
Sometimes. Yesterday was
Was it salty?
Ooh, it was salty. Oh. Even
I saw the game
and
and you accidentally you quit and rewinded in one of your first games of StarCraft 2 back.
It was the first one. My scroll speed was too fast. I'm like, oh, let me fix that. F10, and I accidentally clicked, and it quit the game, and I'm like, oh my god. But yeah. Anyways, you can check out my stuff. People know where that is generally. But most importantly, Matcherino.
Do we have that page up?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I bought a T-shirt from there just earlier today. Even
thank you. Was it the Anna Barrison one?
He did.
Yeah.
I figured it would be. That's your style there.
I'm gonna have to buy it too, I guess.
There's some really great T-shirts up there. You can check those out, and there's stuff like Soylent if you're into that, I guess.
So yeah, you can buy like DreamHack tickets. Just keep checking it. That's one of the best ways to support us. But honestly, by just going to the website and putting in that free code and stuff like that, you're telling Matcherino that specifically if they support this show, because they're sponsoring us, they're partnered with us, that you will check out their stuff, and that's a big deal.
I'm looking at it right now, and it appears some of these rewards have already been met. Like, when are we getting this Brood War show match top secret stuff with iNcontroLTV and Artosis?
Are we there?
No, we're not there.
No, we didn't. Sorry, it's 3,300.
I was like, damn, dude.
I saw 300, got excited. I'm sorry. I was really stoked for that.
And I'll actually just tease that out. We had to put secret because we needed to put something up there, but our idea, and we haven't even asked this kid this question yet, but he just does whatever Dan and I say. We'll have Idra commentate. Dan and I play a Brood War match or something like that.
Get 3,000 right now, guys. Yeah. God damn it. Buy this T-shirt.
Friends. We have no problem with that. You want Idra? You want a shirtless Idra? Fucking yeah. Give me $10,000. I'll get him naked for you.
There are totally cool ways to get that to happen for free too, by the way, to dear viewers out there. Beyond using that code, if you remember, you can click the links on the side. By following the Pylon Show on Twitter, you can add 20%. visiting the Patreon, you can give 10%. If you follow Maturino, that's another 40% right there. That's almost $1 just by clicking 3 links. Easy.
Did you mean
Easy.
cents or percent?
Cents.
Yeah, there you go. I was a little confused for a second.
I feel like we should just always have Rifkin on here to do the plugs, man. He's just so much better than me at this.
You know, there's that meme where people were getting like Ninja and stuff to say like Twitch Prime and then just playing that on their stream. I could just like pre-record it. There you go.
Yeah. So guys, check out the Maturino. They're supporting us a lot, and it's great. The other way to support, or another way to support, would be our Patreon, patreon.com/ThePylonShow. If you want to support us, you can definitely check that out. And yeah, I mean, that's a good way to do it. And you get your priority questions. We always ask all the priority questions, unless someone is really, really out of control on one of those questions.
Which hasn't happened yet, but we did ask the weed question this week. So
it wasn't a very good question, but I mean, if you don't ask it, it's fine. We'll answer it.
Legal in Canada soon.
Yeah, and look at that.
Fun fact.
All those people. Yeah, I heard that. But yeah, you can go ahead and help us out on Patreon. Other than that, just watching it, check it out on my YouTube or Jeff's Twitch channel live, of course. Or I think if you sub, you can see it on his VODs. Check it out. We have it on like the different podcast things. So if you want to go in there and rate it like 5 stars and stuff and leave a great review about how it's like clearly better than the Joe Rogan podcast, that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because maybe that helps. I'm not sure, but yeah, thanks for watching, guys. This has been a lot of fun this episode, actually. This was a fantastic show. Thank you guys so much for coming. Again, thanks to Cobra for putting up with all this, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye, everybody.